this is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
You're listening to a podcast, so you're doing something else too, like maybe scrolling home listings on Redfin, saving places you like without thinking you'll get them, because that's what house hunting has become. But Redfin isn't built for endless browsing. It's built to help you find and own a home. Redfin agents close twice as many deals as other agents, which means when you find a place you love, you've got a real shot at getting it. Redfin helps turn saved listings into real addresses. Get started at redfin.com. Own the dream.
There's a fire inside you can't ignore. Stand still? Not a chance. You're a lifelong learner who's come this far. Now, we're here to help you keep going further. Capella University. What can't you do? Visit capella.edu to learn more.
Tired of spills and stains on your sofa? Wash away your worries with Anabay. Anabay is the only designer sofa that's machine washable inside and out, starting at just $699. Plus, Anabay sofas are pet-friendly, stain-resistant, and feature changeable slip covers and modular pieces. Get up to 60% off site-wide with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Visit WashableSofas.com to get yours now. That's WashableSofas.com. Offers are subject to change, and certain restrictions may apply.
Cool Zone Media.
Hey everybody, Robert Evans here, and I wanted to let you know this is a compilation episode. So every episode of the week that just happened is here in one convenient and with somewhat less ads package for you to listen to in a long stretch if you want. If you've been listening to the episodes every day this week, there's going to be nothing new here for you, but you can make your own decisions.
Fuck it, we ball. All right.
Yeah, fuck it, we ball.
Welcome to It Could Happen Here. We have a pretty sizable panel today. I'm Garrison Davis. I have been forced to watch many hours of Daily Wire Plus exclusive programming at gunpoint.
Uh-huh.
My co-hosts, mostly Robert Evans.
Uh-huh.
We are joined by Mia Wong.
I was not involved in the kidnapping. I want this on the record.
We have a sports consultant, James Stout. Hello.
Hi, I'm here to talk about sports.
That's right. And we have our resident subject matter expert in basketball, Sophie Ray Lichterman.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so afraid. I'm so afraid. Okay.
So, how many of you have seen at least the trailer for Lady Ballers? Because I'm assuming I'm the only one that's actually watched this movie.
I tried to watch through the trailer of Lady Ballers, and then I had a realization that my time on this earth is finite and precious, and so instead I went and looked at a cloud.
Okay. Anyone else?
I saw part of the trailer.
Do we want to watch a 1-minute trailer?
Yes.
Absolutely.
No.
Yep, sure. I haven't taken on enough trauma this week.
Let's watch a 1-minute trailer, Gare.
Okay.
Time to get black-pilled. Let's do it.
I'm going to subject the panel here to the Lady Ballers trailer, which then you will hear their reaction to afterwards.
Jesus Christ. So
All
this
right.
was mostly an excuse for them to, like, slow-mo video of hitting women, right?
Yes.
That was the primary reason for doing this?
Yeah.
I didn't need to see that whole thing. That was really
No,
deeply upsetting.
The reason why I wanted to actually show you is because
I'll never get that minute back, is what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
it's not even
Christ.
it's not even like offensive or triggering. It's just poorly made.
It's shoddy.
It's just not very good. And before we continue, I want to actually talk about why we're talking about this, because whenever I say to my friends, "Hey, do you want to come over and watch Lady Ballers?" Everyone's like, "Why would you do that?" And the reason
You say
is,
this a lot, Garrison.
I saw this twice. The reason is because I think it is actually important to know what your enemy is up to. It's important to see what they think good media is. It's important to see how they are trying to shape the world around them. And I think fiction gets a lot closer to the actual outlook these people have than sometimes their nonfiction stuff. Like that's why
Yes.
Robert has done deep dives on Ben Shapiro's books, on Behind the Bastards for years.
Mhm.
Whenever these guys get the opportunity to make their own complete world, whenever they get to play as God and create a thing that reflects their soul, it's a lot more insightful than like a 2-hour podcast of them ranting. So that's why I decided to actually put a lot of work into digging into this movie. So I have the structure of this episode split up into 3 parts.
Can you stop sharing your screen? It's very distracting.
Yeah.
The image.
Oh,
that-
It's fascinating to see what Garrison gets recommended.
There's
Yeah.
a screenshot of like all the like grab photos from a bunch
Well,
of Daily Wire Plus.
Unfortunately, Sophie,
Content?
I do have some slides to show the class.
I'm sure you
Oh,
do, but
no.
could you remove that one thing?
Sophie, just to bring this up, we have Garrison's address. We could swat them and put it into this.
I'm not going
So
to answer.
true.
I'm not going to answer that on a podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. Silence.
I have this episode structured into 3 parts. The first one, we're going to go into just a very basic overview of the plot, so we have an understanding of what this movie actually contains. Then we're going to go into the production of this movie, because the actual behind-the-scenes development of this film is also incredibly insightful. And then finally, we're going to go into jokes and ideology, because these 2 things go hand in hand. Both of them reveal more about how the other operates. So, first off, I have the title card for Lady Ballers here in the movie. It's not very good. And this movie was written, directed, produced, and is starring the Daily Wire CEO Jeremy Boring. So this is
Wait,
this is
that's their
all
CEO?
one guy. Yes,
Yeah.
that is the CEO.
Perfect film to have himself in.
So
What a sad man.
we start
He's
in 2008. He is incredibly boring, Sophie. Excellent observation.
He's incredibly boring and tries to make himself look like Jordan Peterson as much as he possibly can, and it's quite disturbing.
Well, Jordan Peterson is now his employee, so
My God.
we start in 2008. Jeremy Boring has a horrendous Tony Stark goatee, which I'm currently showing the class on my slideshow.
Christ.
Oh no,
dear. Oh,
Jeremy. No, that's a self-harm level of facial hair.
Yeah. Can
Yeah.
we zoom in on that? What's happening here?
Oh, Jeremy. No, you have to not do that.
Not good.
Why does it stop? Why is there a little break?
That's not good. Like I said,
Yeah.
a horrible Tony Stark level goatee.
Mm-hmm.
He is the coach of a high school basketball team who's about to lose the Tennessee State Championships. The coach gives an impassioned speech in the locker room that ends with the team chanting the coach's motto, quote, "Winners are just losers who win," unquote. You hear this line throughout the movie constantly. Winners are just losers who win. This is a core part of how this movie operates. Now, the team's able to pull it together in the second half, and Coach Jeremy Boring leads the team to victory, becoming 3-time state championships. We then flash 15 years later. Coach Jeremy is failing to keep the attention of the new generation, who are too busy on their phones to learn basketball, and is fired from his high school coaching job. To make matters worse, he's recently divorced, and his wife's new boyfriend is a liberal who's brainwashing his daughter, played by Matt Walsh, who I have a screen cap here as well.
Okay, what the actual fuck?
Do we know the budget for this movie, by the way?
Not exactly, but it is not cheap. Based on how much they paid for casting, this cost multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars. I wouldn't be surprised if they put a few million into this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's very funny that an integral part of the plot is someone being angry about being divorced and not at all telling.
that is a huge part of this movie, is big divorce energy, which actually will play into the ideology of the film as well. So we have Matt Walsh here in a wig with a man bun. He's wearing like a burgundy button-up dress, sitting on a manicured lawn with like rainbow flags and stuff. Anyway, so this is who Jeremy was cucked to. Now, Jeremy gets a new job at a restaurant that happens to be drag themed. There are no actual drag queens, just men in ugly wigs and poor-fitting clothing. Here he meets
Right.
the former star point guard of his basketball team from 15 years ago. The coach enters his former player into a local track and field contest to win $5,000, but the men's events are full. Luckily, the former basketball player is still wearing his wig from the drag restaurant, and the woman...
Why? Why is he still wearing
Standard
his
It
wig?
doesn't-
what often
Robert-
sees drag queens doing, going
If
to
we're
the
going to
shop.
continue this, you cannot question the screenwriting.
Great. Okay, good to know. Thank you.
But the woman at the sign-up table is luckily covered in trans pride pins and mistakes the former basketball player for a trans woman and adds him to the women's division. With a little convincing and some fake boobs, the coach gets the player to agree to compete in the women's division. The guy easily wins every event in the track and field match, as the women competitors just scowl at him. This attracts the attention of a local female reporter, the journalist character, who is weirdly horny for Jeremy Boring. Like, uncomfortably horny for Jeremy Boring. Something it's like, oh, Jeremy, you wrote, directed, and starred in this. You created this whole scenario.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting.
What else would the main woman character do than be horny for Jeremy Boring?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
It's why God made ladies.
The journalist sees through the coach's scheme, but proposes that they team up to create a national news story by having trans women, or people pretend to be trans women, compete in the U.S. Open for the Global Games by exploiting their new diversity and inclusion clause.
Very funny that they think this is how...
Yeah, that's not
this isn't a real thing.
That's
no,
not
this
real.
isn't a real thing. This isn't
And they
real.
don't understand how journalism happens. You don't create the story. It's very funny.
This movie despises journalists.
Well, that is how they do. What they
Yes, it
call
is.
journalism.
It's very correct. They've revealed that they kind of didn't take journalism 101.
No, the whole point of the Daily Wire is literally creating news stories themselves.
Yes.
Anyway.
God, I've seen the next picture.
But to play basketball once again, they first have to put the old team back together. First, they recruit two brothers who own a used car dealership. Then they travel to Michigan to find another teammate who is living Ted K style in the woods after being traumatized by an enemy team mascot as a teenager. None of this is explained.
They just wanted to do that trope. Okay.
Yep. Needing one
so
more
funny.
team member, they recruit the desperately lonely, gay-coded towel boy who now owns a mansion after selling his tech company. After learning about the coach's plan to play in the women's league, the team is initially upset, but after another impassioned speech about winning from the coach, the players agree to join the Lady Ballers. The coach's daughter stops by to explain the gender identity concepts to them that she learned in school, like how women can have beards, just like her art teacher in kindergarten. The Lady Ballers easily win their first basketball game and skyrocket into fame as the first all-trans women's basketball team. After their first taste of victory, they start competing in all women's sports, obviously dominating every single one.
Because these burnout old dudes are going to be better than professional
every female
women's
athlete they encounter.
Ever.
Yes.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
That's it's the joke about I take the stage against Serena Williams, confident that being a man will allow me to beat her. Her pass sails through my body and I die instantly.
Yep.
Now, this whole winning all of the sports section is conveyed through the classic cinematic technique of the montage, which is just as bad as you can imagine. I have a clip from the montage here.
Which is really a shame, given that the montage was invented famously by Soviet cinematographers, is now being used for this.
This was definitely a reference to definitely a reference to Soviet era film. Absolutely.
Garrison,
For sure,
is
for
this
sure.
photo you're showing me fake Joe Biden sniffing this person?
Yes.
It's like he's sniffing little Jonathan Van Ness.
So this is the gay-coded towel boy.
Oh.
Who was invited to the White House's International Women's Day.
Oh my God.
And we have Joe Biden standing
Jesus.
behind him, sniffing his neck.
and rubbing his shoulders.
Yeah,
It's called The Washington Rag Magazine, Democracy Dies in Print. Very, very clever.
Very, really
cutting, scything wit.
Insightful.
This is such a bummer, Garrison.
After the Lady Ballers' wave of success, the coach's ex-wife confronts him about what he's doing and calls the Lady Ballers not real girls, to the shock of her new woke boyfriend.
Sorry.
This is actually a really important scene now. The coach's daughter expresses to him that she wants to be a boy because she wants to be a winner and because, quote, boys are better at everything, unquote. Which the coach denies, but he does admit that boys are better at all sports, as well as, quote, driving, parking, most of the STEM fields, rock and roll, and opening pickle jars, unquote. This is not played as a joke. This is played completely straight. The coach then explains to his daughter that girls can be better at all sorts of things, like, quote, being nurturing, sensitive, empathetic, being better at doing lots of things at once, and caring for a lot of people at once, being better at communicating and building community, and they civilize men. It's the only reason we have a civilization. No women, no world, unquote. Which is a deeply revealing line from Jeremy Boring.
Yeah, I mean, that's how these,
Yeah, that's how they see the world.
God,
He then explains-
that's so boring. That's such a lame take.
He then explains to his daughter that the main thing that women can do that men can't is give birth, and that's the special gift from God. The coach goes home after his talk with his daughter. The journalist is waiting for him there. He's expressing concern about men competing in women's sports, but she rants about how divorce is evil and threatens to cancel him if he doesn't cooperate.
Garrison,
What?
Garrison, sorry. Why is only one person in this green cap wearing a wig?
That's a great question, Sophie. That never gets explained.
Are you going to show us some montage? I'm very excited to see it.
Oh,
I feel like
I'm
we
not
skipped
showing.
past
No,
it.
I'm not showing
Okay.
you my pirated copy of Lady Ballers. I'm sorry.
For reference,
Coward.
listeners, there's like a screen cap from the movie, and it's the entire basketball team, and all the men are not wearing wigs except one guy.
This is actually a different basketball team, which I will get
is
to.
one person wearing a wig?
Let me get to it.
Okay.
Other people
So-
get to it.
This is very carefully structured plot, Sophie. You got to understand the genius of Jeremy Boring's scripting requires time to digest. So the Lady Ballers arrive at their final qualifying game, but instead of finding a women's basketball team to play against, the opposing team, the Cowgirls, is now suddenly all made up of extremely large black men, accompanied by this female journalist. The Lady Ballers get absolutely smoked during the first half. But during halftime, the coach has a change of heart. He tells the team to man up and forfeit all of their previous qualifying wins because they don't want their legacy to be erasing women from women's sports.
Jesus Christ.
So this is the opposing team made up of I think it's some college basketball team in Nashville, and only one of them's wearing a wig. It's played off as a joke. It is all kind of racist.
Shocking.
The female journalist tries to assassinate Jeremy Boring with a sniper rifle, but misses because the coach happens to lean down to pick up a penny.
Oh, great. Yeah, normal. Totally a normal thing.
I mean, this makes this is the second piece of media release in the last few months where the lesson is always take a second shot. This is also the plot of Marvel's Echo. Always
The
take
journalist
the
needed
second
to
shot.
stay at it. The journalist got close.
Yeah, aim center mass.
shots.
It should have been fine.
Then suddenly, the first player to join the Lady Ballers comes out to the coach that they actually feel like a woman. But the coach convinces them that they are delusional and then assaults them in the genitals and walks away.
What the Why?
Sorry, the next screen cap.
Why are they like this?
Every screen cap just gets worse and worse.
Yeah.
That is a child.
Yeah. Right before the second half of the game starts, the coach replaces the Lady Ballers with his daughter and her friends. The other team then helps the
Why?
little...
Yeah, that's a thing you can do in sport.
Because they don't want their legacy to be replacing women in women's sports, so instead the coach uses his daughter and her friends to be like, look, girls playing sports. It doesn't make very much sense. But the other team helps the little girls play the game, but they ultimately crush the little girls 418-6. And this is played off as like a funny bit. We cut to 9 months later. The Brothers used car dealership is now also a kids' sports center where the coach is now teaching. And he has changed his motto to, quote, winners are just losers who do what's right, unquote.
What?
That's not true.
What?
This is the real ending of the movie, but
that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense within the context of the movie.
no.
That's nonsense.
Now,
No,
this is
we're not moving past that. What the fuck? That's nothing. I love so
that they have
angry.
This fucking tagline, and they didn't take any time to make it even coherent. Like,
winners are just losers who do what's right because the Lady Ballers are the real winners because they admitted to losing at sports to do
But they
what's
lost,
right, which is
though.
to not lie about being women. I think that's what they're trying to say, but it doesn't make very much sense. It's all very convoluted.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, my high school basketball coach told me to cry on the inside like a winner after my shoulder popped out of its socket.
Hell
No,
yeah.
that's just, but that's just good advice, Sophie. That's what I tell everybody
cry
on the team.
inside like
Yeah,
a winner
yeah.
most days.
Yeah.
When Garrison started getting traumatized by the Daily Wire, that's what I told him.
Yeah. My high school rugby coach just relocated my shoulder for me and told me to get on with it. So I'm glad that we both have shoulder trauma.
This screen cap is just wow. Sorry, Garrett.
Yeah.
Please continue.
So after this, what's played off as like a heartwarming ending, we cut away to a car parked from across the street, looking at the kids playing basketball. Ominous music starts playing. It's Matt Walsh's character holding a long lens camera, taking pictures of the scene. He takes his man bun wig off, and Matt Walsh says, quote, "Another sweet Daddy Walsh adventure comes to a satisfying conclusion." The camera zooms back to reveal Candace Owens sitting in the passenger seat. She remarks, "I don't understand how you did anything to help make the situation any better." To which Walsh replies, "Don't you?" and then starts doing the most forced, unconvincing, maniacal laughter I've ever heard. The camera pans down to the car's headlights and we cut to credits, and the most Sonic the Hedgehog-ass butt rock plays as the film closes. So this is played as a reveal that Matt Walsh's character was actually secretly Matt Walsh, who was manipulating this whole situation to show people that trans women in sports is bad. That's what they're trying to play off as the twist ending. That this was all a quote-unquote Daddy Walsh adventure. We do have a post-credits.
He actually literally said another sweet Daddy Walsh.
Was the phrase Daddy Walsh used at any point previously in the movie?
No, because
Okay.
previously Walsh was
Good.
playing
We just
this
thought he was an
liberal
actor.
boyfriend, but we
Right.
now reveal that was all that was all part of his scheme. This was all part of Matt Walsh's scheme, actually.
Garrison, I'm going to need you to cut the audio for another sweet Daddy Walsh adventure because I think that will be something we can use a lot.
That's
here
fair.
at
That's
Record
fair.
Zone Media.
I will
Yeah.
add that here.
Another sweet Daddy Walsh adventure comes to a satisfying conclusion.
What are you talking about? I don't understand how anything you did helped to make this situation better.
Don't you?
But we do have a post-credit scene. In the post-credit scene, we see the basketball player that came out as trans to the coach in the climax of the film in conversion therapy, talking about their childhood to none other than Dr. Jordan B. Peterson.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Garrison,
Great.
So,
why are you doing this to us?
I'll say this, it sounds like a movie.
Yeah.
Does it really?
Not a very good one.
Yeah, not a good one. But
No.
but
a movie.
do you know what is really good for all of us?
Ad break?
Taking a quick ad break to digest and think about what we've all just
I
experienced.
kind of just want to
I'd rather not.
scream into the void, but yeah.
All right, we are back. Wasn't that a fun recap of the Daily Wire's hit new movie, Lady Ballers, streaming exclusively on the Daily Wire Plus. So let's go into the actual production of this thing, because this is also deeply revealing. So the Daily Wire has a sports podcast called Crane and Company, hosted by two brothers who claim to be former athletes. A few years back, Ben Shapiro approached them with the idea of making a documentary about them trying to join some women's sports leagues. This idea, however, was quickly abandoned due to the obvious fact that women's sport leagues don't allow men, and the Daily Wire hosts apparently did not want to go through the process of transitioning and the years of hormone
Damn, I
treatments
wonder
necessary
why.
to qualify for women's sports for a documentary that would exclusively stream on the Daily Wire Plus.
Man, I would have respected it if that had been what they did, though. That would have been
Right,
a different thing.
I will actually insert this clip here just because it's really useful to hear them say this. Because they just admit the quiet part out loud here.
So you approached me and you said we should make a fictional film about this topic. Now, to be fair, I think I'd actually suggested to the Crane Boys that they do this as a doc.
Yes.
I originally went to them and I said, you guys should go try out for a bunch of ladies' leagues. And that became not possible because as it turns out, most ladies' leagues don't allow in actual men. And they weren't willing to go the full distance in terms of what it would require in order to, the actual hormone treatments and everything to play in some of the ladies' leagues. But in any case, it turned into this.
So there we go. A very clear admission from Ben Shapiro that this entire premise is fake, that this premise could never work. And so after disproving their own premise, what's left to do? Well, the CEO of the Daily Wire and failed Hollywood producer Jeremy Boring wanted to take this idea from Ben and just do it as a fictional movie, because fiction's arguably more powerful than reality. So, for his directorial debut, Jeremy wanted to make something reminiscent of early 2000s comedies, and he has frequently referenced Dodgeball as a big inspiration for this movie.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Which, to be fair, is an insult to Dodgeball.
No, that's an actual movie.
Yeah, and contains some genuinely funny scenes.
Some characters.
I think
a script.
Like Vince Vaughn actually is a conservative, but he's also an actor.
I think Boring is definitely stuck in the early 2000s as culture, because that is when he tried to break into Hollywood. So that's kind of what his idea of what movies are, is very much is trapped in the early 2000s. He has a quote from that interview with Ben Shapiro, quote, "There's not been a true comedy made since Barack Obama became president. Obama destroyed 3 things: comedy, rock and roll, and America. Other than that, he was an average president," unquote.
Oh my God.
Oh, fucking hell.
Obama just doing drone strikes on every fucking rock band.
That's it, yeah. That's why he took a Predator drone to Lynyrd Skynyrd's house.
If only.
Boy.
Jeremy Boring also remarked, quote, "It became impossible to tell a joke in the Obama administration because Obama made a pact with culture shapers that they should change the fundamental understanding of themselves," unquote. And he's talking about how comedy became a way to progress social change instead of a way to point out the absurdity in the world. So Jeremy decided to move forward with the production of Lady Ballers in mid-March of 2023, which, if you are good at math, you'll realize is less than a year than when it came out. The script for Lady Ballers was written in just 2 weeks.
Sounds right, yep.
Well, that I absolutely believe.
Mm-hmm. Did they use ChatGPT?
It is possible. The entire production had to be very rushed since Jeremy needed to be in Hungary in the beginning of July to shoot the Daily Wire's new fantasy miniseries. But Jeremy says the biggest production hurdle wasn't budgetary or the very tight pre-production and shooting schedule, it was the casting process. Every single actor they approached for every single role, that is a direct quote, said no. Even the conservative actors who have said that they want to work with the Daily Wire have already worked with the Daily Wire. Even canceled actors declined after hearing the pitch for Lady Ballers.
Man.
Which isn't surprising, because the movie's not very good.
Yeah.
So instead of hiring actual actors, they just decided to use Daily Wire employees.
Love this.
Obviously, writer, director, and Daily Wire CEO Jeremy Boring stars as Coach Rob. I'm refusing to call him that. I'm just going to call him Coach Jeremy, because that's who he is. The 3 hosts of the sports podcast The Crane and Company are 3 of the Lady Ballers. Matt Walsh plays the hippie husband of Coach Rob's.
And you said they claim to have been like athlete, like
high school or college athletes. Yeah.
This is a different thing.
Yeah, I can imagine Ben Shapiro was used as a football, but that's as close as they get.
Ben Shapiro was the one on top of the cheerleading tower. He's a little guy. He'd have been good at it.
Yeah, we have Matt Walsh playing the hippie woke husband. Daily Wire hosts Michael Knowles and Brett Cooper, both of whom are failed actors, play newscasters. Then we have Daily Wire hosts Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens, Andrew Clavin, and Jordan Peterson all have cameo roles. So I was able to excitedly point out to all 11 Daily Wire employees to my friend as I forced them to watch this with me.
Are you still friends?
Sophie,
Robert?
can we have mental health care through the company, right?
Yeah.
We might need to get a 5150 on Garrison just for a couple of 3-day cycles until they clear this out of their heads.
I was actually disassociating and thinking about how one day I hope to cast all of us in a basketball movie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no!
The movie
no.
you mean the movie about the actual time that I outshot LeBron James? Sure, yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So
I've seen Robert send a pool ball at about head height across a crowded bar once. So I'm sure it would be very similar.
That was just a brief demonstration of my power, James.
Yeah, no, you really dunked that pool ball. It was incredible to see.
I thought the worst basketball movie I saw was the one on Disney Channel where they had two twins that were basketball players, but they weren't actually twins and they looked nothing alike, and it was just really, really poor production and bad. But this is it.
I thought the worst basketball movie I've seen was Space Jam 2, but this
No, you loved that movie. You talked about that movie for so long.
It's not a good movie, Sophie.
It was really bad.
So, Lady Ballers was shot in less than a month under the fake name Coach Miracle. Now, according to reporting from the Nashville scene, background actors and crew were misled about the production before signing on to the movie.
Of course.
Just being told it was a basketball comedy. The name The Daily Wire was hidden in the contracts, and extras had to sign NDAs. It appears the production company went by the name Bonfire Legend, which is also the production company going forward with the Daily Wire's fantasy miniseries and a few other upcoming projects. So be on the watch for anything called Bonfire Legend if you're signing up to be a background extra for a movie in Nashville. I was able to locate the online casting sheet for the movie, and it has this description, quote, casting extras, kids, skilled sports.
Sports is in parentheses, by the way.
It is. It doesn't make sense as a sentence, but casting extras, kids, skilled sports, and background for a misfit team-inspired basketball comedy. Misfit team.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
that's good.
God, I found their their recruiting thing for the Coach Miracle project.
God.
There's some terrible shit in here. I guess they seem to want to start. It was supposed to be about T-ball initially.
Well, there is a scene where when the athletes start entering all of the women's divisions, they do enter a T-ball contest as well. Right. That is during the montage.
I guess they just couldn't give up that great idea.
Despite the non-disclosure agreement, local background actors in Nashville did come out and warn people about the production once they figured out the Daily Wire's involvement and the movie's anti-trans messaging. One extra, a trans man who unwittingly signed on to the movie, said that Daily Wire fans from around the country traveled to Nashville to be in the film once they learned it was shooting in Tennessee. And according to background actors, certain props and costuming were hid on set to downplay the transphobia while shooting. After some extras voiced concerns and objections to props and signs, which read stuff like baller pride and various other kind of like trans-related jokes. To quote the Nashville scene, quote, during a break from filming, several actors voiced their objections and were quote-unquote screaming about the Daily Wire's involvement with the film before being escorted out of the building, unquote. Protests were held outside of filming locations for the duration of the shoot. These protests also served to inform unaware cast and crew about the movie's messaging. Filming was initially supposed to take place at Belmont University, but that got cancelled as the Daily Wire's deception regarding the production of the film was made public. So good on everyone who was coming out against this after they realized what was happening. Good on everyone for protesting. Disrupting these sorts of things, I think, is of vital importance. At the very least, so that you can inform anyone who is signed on to this that of like what this actually is. Because, you know, if you're a trans person who signed up to be a background extra and you find yourself on a Daily Wire set, that is a very dangerous place to be. Mm-hmm. So that is extremely important. Ted Cruz, who was an aspiring actor, according to Jeremy Boring, in his youth, was asked to do a cameo.
Oh my God! Oh, that scans so much. Jesus Christ! Every one of these fucking guys.
All of them are all aspiring movie directors and
wanted
actors.
to make it in Hollywood, but they can't because they don't have any talent.
Yeah.
Aspiring is generous. Failed would be a more accurate description.
Failed.
We need like a public works jobs program for these people or something to stop them from doing this stuff. Like have them, I don't know.
We need to integrate Hollywood casting agents with a system of suicide booths, and we need to put a sign outside those suicide booths that says Marvel movie backlot casting or something like that. And when these people fail out, we just send them into the booth and tell them they got a great role. They're going to be the new Spider-Man or whatever.
Robert describing Canadian Hollywood for that.
You are describing Canadian Hollywood. After Ted Cruz shot his cameo, he beat Jeremy Boring in a one-on-one basketball game. So that's a fun fact for you, Sophie.
That would be a comedy.
Fun fact for me.
Because you love basketball.
Yeah, but nobody needs...
That's a real case of the stoppable force meeting the movable object.
yeah. Did they have the low hoops? Do you think, the ones for children who can't jump up to dunk on an adult-size hoop yet?
There's a really good line from Jeremy in an interview that we're discussing the production of this film. After shooting a wrestling scene with a professional stuntwoman, Jeremy said that he was driving in his car on his way home and he thought to himself, quote, "We're genuinely being terrible to women in the making of this movie," unquote. Which is the most true thing he's ever said.
Yeah, bro.
But he tried to justify it by saying, "This is actually happening in the actual world," referring to men injuring children and little girls in sports games, which just isn't true. That just isn't true. Grown men are not entering Little League and assaulting little girls. That's just not happening.
I really wish there was a video of the Ted Cruz basketball game, because Ted Cruz has to have the ugliest jump shot that has ever existed.
I don't think he can jump.
Yeah, exactly.
He definitely has he has a 1 foot vertical at least, I think.
Yeah.
But he definitely shoots with 2 hands and jolty.
It's weird how much Jeremy in interviews has to reassure himself that this quote, "This movie is absurd, but it's only as absurd as the real world," unquote, despite already admitting that the entire conceit of this movie, that men can fake being trans to just win all of women's sports, is just divorced from reality. It's not true. This doesn't happen. And now I will do one final quote from Jeremy that made me really upset before we take another ad break, where he's talking about the thematic similarities in this film. Quote, "Tonally, the film is a lot like Dodgeball, but thematically, it's much less like Dodgeball. It's much more like The Death of Stalin," unquote, which is an insult to a perfectly good movie. The Death of Stalin slaps. The fact that Jeremy Boring is comparing his dog shit basketball movie to The Death of Stalin starring Steve Buscemi, insulting.
Yeah, you don't get to compare yourself to Armando Iannucci if you've never written a thing, which you didn't. This is not writing.
Deeply upsetting. I mean, I think the closest thing I can compare it to is the Disney Channel original movie Double Teamed, where the twins were not actually twins and the plot was bad.
Yeah. Go ahead and don't Google that.
Double Teamed.
Let's have a capitalistic palate cleanser with these lovely products and services that support my Daily Wire Plus
addiction.
All right, we are back. Oh my God, Sophie's showing me the picture from the Disney Channel movie. It does not look good.
No.
I will say, it does look slightly better than Lady Ballers, which isn't saying much.
Clearing the bar, which is lying on the ground.
Lifetime's better. Definitely.
Let's get into some of the jokes and the ideological underpinnings of this film. And I also just have a few other just random fun facts. I have here saved the font choice for the opening credits of this movie, which is not very good. If you look at the font for the Daily Wire Plus presents A Jeremy's Movie, which is another title card is just a Jeremy's Movie, which isn't how you do title cards for films, but whatever.
Yeah, or sentences.
No. We have just 1 minute into the film, there is a your mom incest joke between two brothers.
Every time you say something, it just fucking comes out of nowhere.
There's actually a lot of incest jokes in this movie.
What?
Why?
Immediately, we have like overexposed cinematography. The whites are clipping. It doesn't look good. We have this joke in the first few minutes with this gay-coded towel boy who's sniffing the sweaty towels from the other teammates. During the opening credits montage, they put this horrible film grain filter on this basketball footage. I have an example here. Just it doesn't look good. It doesn't
What's
look
happening
good.
here? Is that guy breakdancing?
No, that's him doing a foul, I think.
It's him doing a fucking Tim Robinson face.
Yeah, he does kind of have a Tim Robinson face.
Oh my god!
And we also during the opening credits we have the great line, introducing Jeremy Boring. Very fun. We have a kids and their damn phones joke with
Sure. I'm certain.
With phone notifications being used as a punchline during a failed like impassioned speech. We have what was first a funny joke. We have a stealing catalytic converter joke, which is immediately ruined.
Yeah.
Come on!
It's offensive to Robert. I will not stand for this.
My culture is not a costume.
Yeah.
The catalytic converter joke's immediately ruined by turning racist by having the one black kid in the class drop his cordless reciprocating saw. The movie then acknowledges the racism by having the coach receive a phone call from his boss telling him that it's racist to tell teenage boys not to steal, which the coach justifies by saying the Bible says not to steal. In response, his boss fires him because you can't teach the Bible in school. I
wish it worked
That
like
is how that is how Coach Jeremy loses his job. When picking up his daughter from school, the teacher standing outside is inaudible because she was wearing like 6 COVID masks, one of which says, quote, "We say gay." And then the teacher goes into a coughing fit because Jeremy does not have a catalytic converter. And Jeremy just tells her to smile and wear makeup. Jeremy asks his daughter what they learned at school today, and she says that they had a moment of silence for the workers exploited by the capitalistic system when learning about the Cold War. His 8-year-old daughter also informs him in class that a girl showed her penis in the bathroom. Jeremy's upset at this, but his daughter accuses him of being transphobic and says, "Okay, boomer." Very funny stuff.
Airing his grievances.
Jeremy suggests that he might move his daughter to a private school, to which his daughter replies, quote, "Private schools reinforce white patriarchal privilege," unquote.
Based child.
I'd love to hear it.
Based child destroys terrible
A film
dad.
about how your children hate you and your divorce. It's just such a powerful Daily Wire
A
vibe.
lot of the movie's jokes are just Jeremy Boring's fake daughter saying like accurate, like academic level things, and that's just the joke, is that she's like right.
Yeah.
Jeremy has been cucked by a liberal hippie, played by Matt Walsh, as we've said, who refers to the coach as "my lover's former lover," which they play as an ongoing joke. And liberal Matt Walsh talks about how he likes eating bugs and vaccines to stay healthy. This is coded as a joke that vaccines keep you healthy. Walsh is not a great actor.
Eating bugs and vaccines to keep healthy.
Oh, yeah,
I did
that's
get
what we
that.
do.
I did get that right.
Yeah.
All right,
Mhm.
cool.
Now, Walsh is not a good actor. He is a black hole of charisma. He can really only do deadpan delivery. So watching him try to play like a sincere hippie leftist is just like uncanny. But Jeremy plays the most divorced man ever, which he pulls off fine. So
is he acting in that role, or is that just him?
I gotta give him credit, right? What you know, they say.
In front of Matt Walsh's house, we have these like fake. We have these fake yard signs, which I'm just gonna read. Quote: "In this house, we believe crickets are delicious. Silence is violence. Speech is also violence. No one is illegal, but Europeans coming to America was bad. Guns don't kill people. White people kill people. Also, guns kill people."
Also true.
Trans rights are human rights. Feelings don't care about your facts. Pride Month is every month. Social credit scores matter. Inclusive inclusion. The earth is literally going to burst into flame any day.
I like that he just kept
One can
trans
dream.
rights or human rights in there. He didn't even change that one.
Couldn't
And
think of a funny riff on it. He was just
Then-
like, yeah, fuck human rights.
no one is illegal, but Europeans coming to America was bad.
So true. So true.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is a more based yard sign than the ones that like lib people actually have.
Yes.
Like, he could have just got
I
a
would
real
put these
one.
outside my house.
Yeah. There was
I
a
love
very
how
funny
scared
variant.
they are of the fact that like 12 people in this country eat cricket protein. Like it's such a
They are
such
very
a
scared.
baby thing to be scared of.
Like, you all eat lobster. Like,
Yeah.
what? Come on.
I'm saying, like, yard signs could be improved, is what I'm saying.
They couldn't even get like a cab on there. Like it seems like there are some really easy things to include.
Yeah,
that
they don't really
just-
have anything related to police in this movie at all.
Well,
So
maybe that's them
at-
getting mad about J6.
At the coach's new job at the drag-themed restaurant, Jeremy Boring has to like put on drag and then reflects on sexual harassment by saying, quote, "I didn't know men could be so handsy." He then sexually assaults a female barkeep immediately after finishing that sentence, which I guess is like played as a joke, but he slaps a female barkeep on the butt after reflecting on sexual harassment. When reflecting on his life since 2008, the coach says, quote, "I've stayed the same, and the world has changed. One day it's all about winning. The next day they want you to lead from behind. Don't be so mean to kids. Don't push them so hard. Don't make fun of losers. How are you supposed to win that way?" Unquote. But it's just an interesting look at Jeremy Boring saying that, like, he is trapped in 2008 and the world has moved on, but he is still there, which I think is totally true. Him, Ben Shapiro, all of them are trapped in 2008, and the world has moved on, and they are unwilling to learn and grow and change as people. And this is just a really interesting admission of that fact.
I think there's an interesting thing here too with like the way that this kind of like this has to do with also the why they're so obsessed with college campuses, but the way that they're stuck in high school sports.
Oh yeah,
it was just like this powerfully American thing. Like no one else in the fucking world cares about high school sports. Like no one.
I mean, real people don't care about any sports.
Wrong.
Robert Evans is coming for the core of my existence.
Mia, like it is like a reactionary nostalgia. Like it is a very like a hauntological reactionary conservative drive.
I also want to point out that laugh that Robert just did, the little evil laugh he just did, is what they were trying to go for at the end of that movie and failed to do so.
I know. Look what they have to do to mimic a fraction of my power.
Sure.
Spending millions of dollars on
and a whole
dog shit basketball movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, like many of the Daily Wire's own staff, the character of the former high school basketball player was also an aspiring actor, but wasn't able to succeed because, quote, "It turns out white males of non-exotic sexualities is the only ethnic group not being cast by Hollywood these days," unquote.
Yeah, man, I haven't seen a white guy in a movie in forever.
Nope. Just go to LA. No white dudes.
I love that, like, one of the wokest movies of last year, the D&D movie, still had a white guy as the main character. Like, they're all over the place.
Not to mention a white guy sports movie. Very uncommon. Come on.
I just love the turn of phrase non-exotic sexualities and then referring to that as an ethnic group.
Yes, I noticed that too.
It doesn't make any
what
sense.
makes a sexuality exotic?
We then have a joke, quote, "I heard Disney was going to make the new Snow White a neurodivergent black lesbian," unquote, which is just Jeremy being mad about the new Snow White movie because he's trying to make his own Snow White movie.
Oh God, yeah. Is it about cocaine?
No.
Probably.
Mm-hmm. I can see that divorced dad on cocaine. It'll be great. Like this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I hate my kids and I love cocaine. That's the entire script.
When referencing white men, Jeremy says, quote, "It wasn't that long ago when we were champions, winners," unquote.
I mean, you never were, Jeremy.
Just learn how to cry on the inside
yeah.
like a winner like the rest of us, Jeremy.
Yeah, there's plenty of white men who are champions at various things, just not you, because you're a fundamentally disappointing person.
Yes.
When the coach is fighting with the woman at the track and field sign-up table, the woman threatens him with a taser and says, "I will tase a white man." When the former basketball player runs up to check on the coach after he's tased, the woman says, "Holy crap, I tased an ally!" After which, after getting his player enlisted in the women's division, Jeremy says, quote, "I was happy we could get this worked out without having to get social media involved."
Oh
to
my
which the woman at the sign-up table says, quote, "Please, I have a family and a queer dog." Very funny stuff.
Fuck.
All right. Well,
Garrison, you're really upsetting me. Please continue. This is
we have Jeremy saying lines like, "Do you know how much faster a man past his prime is than a female athlete?" And
not faster. Not fucking like. I'm sorry. I have been. Sorry, this shit makes me so angry.
James, we also have high school boys can run faster than world record female sprinters. Unquote.
No, they can't.
Man,
just stop. Like, also for fuck, like.
Just say you hate women.
Sophie, you are actually stumbling across the actual ideological core of this movie, which is just hating women.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Hating women, hating trans women, just being hateful.
Yeah.
Racist.
Racist,
being bad at
sexist.
sport and wishing you didn't suck at everything you try and do.
Yeah, they put a horrible digital video filter over all of their fake news footage.
The fastest female marathon runner, Tigist Assefa from Ethiopia, did it in 2 hours and 11 minutes and 53 seconds.
I'm prepared to pay Ben Shapiro's entry fee.
I would love you to throw some random high schoolers at that record and see if they can beat it.
I do hope that somewhere on the internet there is data of Ted Cruz's athletic. Go ahead.
I want to see Matt Walsh try to do a 2 hour and 11-minute marathon because his heart will explode.
Yeah, but also I want to know Ted Cruz's times from high school. That's got to be something on the internet.
Yeah. What kind of fucking track runner were you?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're right that like the fastest males are faster, but the fastest male marathon is faster by like 8 minutes, 9 minutes.
Well, and like testosterone is a massive performance enhancing drug.
Yes, but it's not like the way they're saying we're like, well, any man could beat the best women. Like, no, very few people can do a 2 hour and 11-minute marathon.
Yeah, like even when I spent most of my 20s being paid to exercise, I trained all the time with ladies who were also like paid to exercise, right? When I was racing bikes, I trained with women who are pro racers all the time. Women who are very good at sports are just very fucking good at sports. Like even men who are professional athletes are going to be like on their level.
Most professional athletes can't do a 2 hour and 11-minute marathon. Only like people who are really fucking good at marathon.
I'm pretty sure I could lap this guy. That is high school Ted Cruz.
Yeah,
magnificent.
Christ.
So we have this reoccurring joke with these two newscasters played by two of the Daily Wire hosts. Throughout all of the news footage, there's a horrible like fake like digital video filter just overlaid on the footage. It looks really ugly. And the newscasters keep saying, "brave and beautiful trans women," as if they're being forced at gunpoint to acknowledge that trans women exist. There is a few Bud Light jokes in there. We have a joke about Jeremy stealing most of the winnings from the track and field contest. When the journalist character is called out for transphobia by the coach, when she accuses the athlete of faking being a woman, she responds by saying, quote, "Save it, I'm a journalist. I literally cannot be shamed." And then says that you can only be a woman if you get menstrual cramps, which is really funny because this is actually one thing that happens if you go on HRT for long enough. You actually do start getting menstrual cramps. So the actual line she has about only real women have menstrual cramps is like one of the things that HRT actually does give you, which is just kind of funny.
Yeah, I love the idea as well. Like before you enter the women's basketball game, you have to like provide evidence of your menstrual cramps in order to be allowed to compete.
You have to provide empirical proof of cramping.
Yeah. The cramp inspector has arrived.
The journalist also says, quote, "Men are stronger, faster, meaner. Soon all of the best women will be men. Cheating, low-life men." But after the first meeting between the journalist and the coach, where they agree to work together, the journalist invites the coach home, and Jeremy gets femdomed. This is a reoccurring bit in the movie that Jeremy gets femdomed by this journalist.
I'll believe that.
I have a screenshot here of Jeremy tied up in bed.
I'll believe that.
Jesus Christ.
God.
Yeah. Nah,
when trying to put their old team back together, they learned that the one black guy from their old team was found dead with a hole in his head due to a laser from space. I think this is a Jewish in space laser joke. It's not explained or extrapolated.
Why?
Yeah,
Why?
wow.
What?
Is it joke? Wow.
They had like a list.
What?
I don't know. I can't say,
What
guys.
is the joke there?
Yeah.
I have the same information you do here. I can't.
Did they just feel like they had to tick the anti-Semitism box? They needed to circle
bit
back.
Just that a black man died? Is that literally the whole joke?
And he probably got killed from a laser in space. And
What?
Why?
That is all the joke is.
That's
odd. Okay.
Also, just looking at the screen cap of this photo, why is it decorated with like Urban Outfitters like lighting?
Because she's a journalist.
Oh.
Yeah, except for you don't have a Urban Outfitters room in your house. You
No.
didn't get one from the journalism union.
No, I was not provided a neon love light.
Oh yeah, no, I got one of those on my return from Syria. I got another one.
The movie is full of stock footage and a lot of royalty-free music. And there was literally a Jeremy's Razors commercial shoved in the middle of the movie, alongside a whole bunch of other Daily Wire product placement. And if you didn't know, Jeremy Boring started his own razor company after Harry's Razors dropped their ads on the Daily Wire. So he started his own razor company. He also started his own chocolate company, both of which have product placement in the film. But Jeremy's Razors has a whole ad just edited into the middle of this movie. I think this is like a Wayne's World reference, but it's hard to say.
Yeah, I think you're right there.
There is a rape whistle joke, just a joke saying that rape whistles exist, and that's the joke. And then when the coach's daughter explains gender theory to the Lady Ballers, we get a fantastic series of shots depicting a gender conspiracy board. Red string connecting terms on a whiteboard, such as demi-boy, demi-girl, para-boy, which I actually like para-boy. That one's pretty
Paraboy's good. Paraboy's good.
Is that when you're a boy with a parachute?
Yes.
LGBTQIA plus A, B, C, D, E, F, G, etc. We have the word panda as a term. I don't know what that means.
I've never heard of that one.
FTM,
like
MTF, AFAB, AMAB, other, non-binary, pansexual, saxosexual. Don't know what that is.
Is that someone who just fucks Anglo-Saxons? Because
or
that's
saxophones.
depressing.
Maybe they fuck saxophones.
Okay, I finally found a type of homophobia that I approve of.
They have
saxosexuals must be stopped.
At the center of the gender conspiracy board, they just have frogs, which is, I guess, an Alex Jones joke. But here is a picture of the gender conspiracy board.
Frogs?
Lots of the red string on this board just connect to nothing. It's just red string connecting nothing.
That's a bad conspiracy board. I've made a lot in my life, and that one's not very good.
This is so mid.
No.
Also, it's really lame to do it to make like a whiteboard your conspiracy board. Like, get cut out pictures and bits of like text and stuff from printouts and nail it to the wall. Actually go the extra mile.
Basic ass whiteboard. It's
that looks like something someone makes for a movie, not something a crazy person makes in the throes of paranoia. Like, come on.
So I'm just going to speed run the rest of these.
Let's do this.
Come on, hit me.
We are getting a little long.
Yes.
When one player asks, "What is a woman?" another responds by saying, "Just shave your legs. Tell each other how brave you are for things that require absolutely no physical courage, and don't be afraid to cry at work." Unquote.
Yeah, all things I do as a cishet man. Actually, there you are.
As I've established, cry on the inside like a winner.
There is a part of their ongoing newscaster segment. They get increasingly more racist costumes after being forced to go on 2 weeks of sensitivity training. Michael Knowles' character learns that they are, quote, a raging scoliosexual and also 1 2048% Dakota. So he says, "I know what it's like to overcome diversity." And then the other newscaster says that her old name is her slave name. She is a white woman. These costumes only get more racist the more the film goes on. As the Lady Ballers enter onto the court for the first time, all of the seats are empty because, quote, it's ladies basketball, boys. Nobody watches. during their first game.
That's the thing, right? All these people who are suddenly so fucking concerned about women's sports manifestly do not give a fuck about women's sports.
Correct.
You weren't there when the prize money was shit or when people were being sexually assaulted by their coaches. Like, you don't give a fuck. It's just a vehicle for transphobia.
And just a vehicle for transphobia and how much they hate women.
During their first game, the Lady Ballers keep whispering in the ears of the players from the other team that they're lesbians, some of whom are revolted, some of whom are turned on by this. Referee Ben Shapiro, in a cameo role, says, keep it clean, keep it tucked to the players as they start their first game. The game is full of constant fouls as the male players just flagrantly assault the other team. The stands start to fill up the longer the game goes on, and someone in the audience says, "This is great. It's just like watching men's basketball." This is just a reoccurring bit, is that like all of the footage of basketball with like men versus women, it's just the men like assaulting women during playing and just like doing like fouls. Like they're not actually playing basketball. They're just like punching women and stealing the ball, and like that's how they play. One of the Lady Ballers feels a little guilty after winning their first game, after seeing a woman on the other team cry. And then in the locker room, he says to the boys, quote, "Aren't we just using our innate strength and speed to wail on a bunch of girls in a competition where we wouldn't stand a chance against other men?" But then he gets a notification that he got a brand sponsorship and then changes his mind. The other Lady Ballers gets invited to Nike commercials and to speak at the White House on women's rights. The journalist calls this the virtue economy. After their first win, the journalist is about to fuck Jeremy Boring in the locker room, but stops and says, "The last thing I need is another abortion this year." And says, "Do you know what it's like to be a female field reporter in the 29th biggest media market?" Which I don't understand how that relates to the abortion. It's not very funny. Here's a screenshot from the wrestling bit where you see, a totally real weight class distinction between a guy who's like over 200 pounds and a woman who's like 140 pounds. Totally how sports works.
Also, the guy doesn't look very familiar with the ways and means of wrestling.
No. The two brothers enter a woman's shower together and say, "One small step for dudes, one giant leap for lesbians." The joke is that men are going to sexually assault women, I guess, which, again, is only more revealing about how these guys think about women. During the victory montage, almost all of the basketball gameplay is just the men assaulting women. We have lots of fouls and slow motion shots of like men's dicks and crotches colliding with the female players' faces. That's most of the footage.
Yeah, most of the footage that I'm sure Boring watched over and over again in slow-mo.
We have a lot of dead naming jokes. We have one trans age joke about how the towel boy can now relive childhood as a girl and compete in girls' Little League Baseball, in which he gives the 8-year-old pitcher a concussion. There's a joke about how girls have sex with each other at sleepovers, which leads to an incest orgy. That's just a reoccurring side plot, is this incest orgy joke.
Oh my God.
Jeremy Boring says to his ex-wife, when his ex-wife is complaining to him about all of his deception, he says, "My former lover, the turf." And that's played as a joke. Here's more of these increasingly racist costumes.
Oh my God.
From Mikey Knowles and Brent Cooper.
For fuck's sake. No, and fucking stop.
Oh my God.
Pretty bad.
Fuck.
So yeah.
Wow, Garrison.
It doesn't even look right. It looks like Coachella.
I'm so embarrassed for these people.
Yeah, they don't look like they're having fun. They just
no.
Anyway, I have a few more of the incest jokes written down, but I don't think I need to read them.
Yeah.
The journalist character, all of the journalists throughout the film, including these two newscasters and the main journalist character, constantly make fun of and insult people who have kids. This is like the Daily Wire making some point about how like journalists hate families. I think it's kind of unclear.
It's because they pay us like shit. So like we're all too poor to have children. What's happening.
That's all of the jokes. Now I'm going to get to like my actual end thesis on this.
No, but I think you do have a good theory there that like this might be set up to start like a Matt Walsh, some kind of like cinematic universe. Because we have the final shot of Matt Walsh actually orchestrating the whole thing. The actual ideology of this film is that men are better at almost anything that requires skill. But women are maybe better at like emotions, and they can make babies, and that's the one benefit to being a woman.
This belief was paraphrased in the movie itself by the journalist character saying, quote, "Boys and girls are different, but at least girls can have babies." In probably what's the most like extremely telling scene, in which many of the Daily Wire staff have referred to as the heart of the movie, where the coach tells his daughter, it's true that boys are better at all sports, as well as driving, parking, STEM fields, rock and roll, and opening pickle jars. Girls have one special gift that boys can never have, making babies. So, to this type of conservative, women are just emotional baby-making factories who also serve to quote-unquote civilize men. It's the only reason we have civilization. No women, no world. This is how they view women. They view women as a civilizing force thrust upon men and as a factory for reproduction. That is the only utility that the Daily Wire sees for being a woman. Now, this scene with Jeremy Boring and his fake daughter is immediately followed up by another very, very preachy scene in a way that really breaks from the movie's pacing. The coach is talking to the journalist character about his divorce and how he's worried that it's really starting to affect his daughter. The journalist then goes on a very out-of-character rant about how, of course, the divorce is affecting his daughter. Quote, 70% of people in prison come from broken families. Your daughter is now twice as likely to do drugs, twice as likely to drop out of school, 4 times as likely to have trouble fitting in, 3 times as likely to end up in therapy, twice as likely to commit suicide, 50% more likely to have health problems. Do you people even freaking do a Google search before deciding to blow up the planet your kids live on? Unquote. So this is the Daily Wire taking a break from the movie to express that their belief that divorce is the root cause of societal decay. This is the other, I think, core part of the movie's ideology, how the fact that women are divorcing men is causing most of the societal problems that we're seeing in America. And then which is probably the most frustrating scene, where we have the first kind of lady baller player comes out to the coach as maybe feeling like they're actually trans. The coach then instructs them to ignore anyone in their life who might be loving and accepting, like their family, and instead just listen to Jeremy Boring, saying, quote, "You're confused. I get that. We're all confused sometimes. If you need help, buddy, I'm gonna help you get it. But you need to believe me when I tell you this. You're not a woman. You're just a lost man in a lost world with shitty parents and a shitty coach who've all gone along with this lie instead of hurting your feelings and telling you the truth." The player then asks, how can the coach be so sure that they're not a woman? To which Jeremy Boring then punches the player in the genitals and walks away. He has no answer for that, right? Jeremy Boring has no answer to someone who actually says, no, I'm trans. The only answer to him is to assault them. This points at the Daily Wire's actual like ideological core. They want you to ignore everyone in your life who loves you and accepts you, and instead just listen to them. To briefly paraphrase a review from Rollo Tony, this organization is built around the phrase, facts don't care about your feelings, but they're telling the audience the exact opposite. To actually just ignore everyone in your life who actually loves you, ignore the facts of your actual sense of being, and instead listen to the Daily Wire and pay a $100 subscription service to the Daily Wire Plus. That's the actual point of the movie. And this film doesn't even qualify as like a parody movie, because a parody comes from a place of appreciation that reifies the actual original source material. This movie is too self-invested in the Daily Wire's own microcosmetic world to actually even succeed in any sense of parody. And the moral of the film is that a healthy man would never want to be a woman because women are so much genetically worse than men. But because women are worse, we should let them have their own fun. We should let them have their own sports because they have no chance of ever competing with men in anything. This movie can't fathom why someone who was born a man would want to transition into a woman for any other reason than fame and success, because women are so much just like inferior. At the heart of this film lies a deep hatred of women and a misogynistic core to its transphobia. Misogyny operates as the film's own justification for its transphobia, as the film spends most of its time making fun of women and women's sports as it does the idea of trans people. There are no actual trans characters in the movie. The film doesn't even deal with trans issues, besides just like drag and the word non-binary being a joke. There isn't any jokes. It's all about how women suck. That's the actual point of the movie. And for all of that, the actual like attempts at humor just don't work, because most of the humor is just saying classically offensive things and acting like that itself is a punchline. which doesn't work as comedy because the people saying those lines also genuinely believe the offensive things they're saying. It only works as a joke if the conservative audience can imagine a liberal audience getting triggered while watching, which isn't actually humor. And the only other type of humor we have in the film is anti-intellectualism. Characters like Jeremy Boring's daughter saying random gender theory terms, and that being played as a joke with no punchline. None of it actually works. I mostly feel bad for all of the child actors who got duped into this and all of the extras. That's the actual end result of this film, is that the Daily Wire tricked a whole bunch of people in Nashville, including very innocent kids, into participating in this just very low quality piece of propaganda that just deeply hates women. And that is my actual thesis on how this movie operates and the core of the Daily Wire's own transphobia, being this misogynistic center and worldview that men are superior to women.
I mean, I will say, I think they've done a good job in they've created a companion piece to Whipping Girl, where if you need to explain to someone what trans misogyny is, you just show them this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well,
yep.
I think we've said enough about
that was
Lady
a fun
Ballers.
hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah, glad I never have to talk about that again.
Thanks for ruining my day, Garrison.
All right, everybody. Enjoy the Daily Wire, I guess.
Or
Bucket
not.
we ball.
Tired of spills and stains on your sofa? Wash away your worries with Anabay. Anabay is the only machine washable sofa inside and out, where designer quality meets budget-friendly prices. That's right, sofas start at just $699. Enjoy a no-risk experience with pet-friendly, stain-resistant, and changeable slip covers made with performance fabric. Experience cloud-like comfort with high-resilience foam that's hypoallergenic and never needs fluffing. The sturdy steel frame ensures longevity, and the modular pieces can be rearranged anytime. Shop WashableSofas.com for up to 60% off site-wide, backed by a 30-day satisfaction guarantee. If you're not absolutely in love, send it back for a full refund. No return shipping or restocking fees. Every penny back. Upgrade now at WashableSofas.com. Offers are subject to change, and certain restrictions may apply.
Pro drivers live for race day, but for small business owners, every day is race day. That's why going pro with Lenovo Pro matters. One-on-one advice, IT solutions, and customized hardware powered by Intel Core Ultra processors keep your business on the right track. Business goes pro with Lenovo Pro. Sign up for free at lenovo.com/pro.
Lenovo. Flag football is exploding, and iFlag is leading the way. As the Guinness World Record holder, iFlag hosts premier flag football tournaments nationwide for boys, girls, high school girls, and adults. From first-time players to elite competitors, iFlag delivers top-level competition, unforgettable experiences, and a community built around the game. Ready to be part of it? Join the movement. Find your tournament and learn more at iflag.org. That's iflag.org.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to It Could Happen Here, a podcast that I'm enthusiastically introducing for the third time because I've just sounded so half-assed the first two times that I've made myself do it again. I'm joined by my friend and your friend, Shireen Lani Yunus. Hi, Shireen.
Hi, that was lovely to witness.
Yeah, wasn't it great? That's
Yeah.
I really put on my podcasting boots and went back to the podcasting phase to do another day in the podcast minds.
It's beautiful. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
As you can tell, it's two content creators who are excited to create content. I'm glad we're not on Twitch. We would be in the poorhouse.
Oh yeah,
it's like 8-hour streams. Can't do it. All right, so we're not here to talk about how we've been in the podcast minds for too long today. We are here to talk about clothing in the cold. Why are we talking about this? Because right now it's record cold all across the US. It's very, very cold. Because I've been spending a lot of time outside, both helping drop water for migrants crossing the border, helping out in Nakumba, and over the holidays, just like doing my recreation stuff in the mountains that I like to do. And I think that, like, I guess education, I guess a lot of people have been aggressively marketed at about what to wear when they're outdoors, be that people who are working or people who are recreating. And I think it's good to have a little bit of clarity around it, especially as we're entering, like, this might be the worst winter of our lives. It might also be the best winter of the rest of our lives, right? Climate change is making more and more people exposed to more and more extreme weather all over the world. So I want to talk a little bit about the stuff I've learned in 30-something years of playing outside about how to stay warm in the cold. So that's what we're going to do. I've got this broken down. Like, I think the really important thing to think about when you are picking your outfit is obviously having all your colors match. It's very important. But more than that, it's like thinking about your outfit as a system rather than as a series of individual things. And I think this is where, like, the way outdoor companies market is really bad. They'll be like, oh yeah, this jacket is badass and it's warm and it's waterproof and it's windproof and it's also breathable. And like, you probably would be much better off with 3 cheaper jackets and 1 very, very expensive jacket.
Interesting.
Specifically, I guess I've seen a lot of people come a cropper when their very single jacket gets wet, right? And then you either got 1 layer or you commit to wearing a wet jacket. So we're going to talk about the different parts of your clothing system, what you should look for, and why you should pick certain things. I'll try and recommend things that are cheap as well, because I know that money is hard to come by, and the world seems to be constantly trying to extract money from us. So this system's based on, do you know who Mark Twight is, Shireen?
No, I don't know who Mark Twight is, but I'm looking at the same document you are, and I read his name maybe 6 times, and every time it was Mark Twain, and I was so confused.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's Mark Twight.
Legendary mountaineer Mark Twain. This is equally good for, if you're going on a boat down the Mississippi River or climbing a mountain.
Yes, exactly. But no, I don't know who Mr. Twight is.
Mr. Twight's a famous mountaineer. He's good at climbing mountains.
Wow, that's cool. That's cool to be famous for that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, a boy can dream. Like maybe in another life, I'll not have to podcast. And I'll just be able to raise fluffy animals and climb in the mountains.
Sheep.
Yeah, that is the dream. Every time I don't want to sit down and write my book, I think about the amount of livestock I could possibly purchase if I sell lots of books.
A beautiful dream.
Yeah. Well, one day. Talking to sheep, actually, let's talk about base layers, because one of the things they can be made out of, Shireen, is wool from sheep.
Nice. That was good.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I am a professional podcast guy. So your base layer is the thing you wear next to your skin, right? And a lot of people, I think, this is where, like, people say, have you heard the phrase cotton kills?
No.
No, yeah, you've not heard that. Okay.
I have not heard that. I mean, I'm glad you're making an episode about this, because, like, most of the things I've learned about keeping warm have just been, like, things I've heard. You know what I mean? I've never, like, researched what actually will help me or what will help other people, because I think, like, even, like, when you are going to provide, or, like, cheaper options, that's a good thing to, like, donate to people too. Now you know what will actually help them versus, like, something else. But
yeah, totally. Like, I know, like, for a lot of unhoused people, for instance, like, you'll get donated a lot of crappy cotton t-shirts, but those are terrible, right? The little gaps in the cotton, they get wet and they stay wet. And it is much worse to be cold and wet than it is just to be cold, right? And the whole system of clothing designed by Mark Twight, Mark Twain's brother, Mark Twight, he, the idea is not to keep you dry. The idea is to let you dry off quickly, right? So you can get wet, you can sweat, but it's much more preferential to be able to dry off quickly. And that's what cotton doesn't do. And so that's why cotton is considered to be, like, your worst choice here.
Wow.
So if your base layer, you want to go with, there's 2 options, I guess. Well, it's like many things, it's a continuum, not a binary. And so you've got wool on one end and you've got synthetic on the other end. Wool is really nice because it doesn't smell, right? Like if you have, like, athletic clothing that's synthetic, it can get really stinky. If you wear it for a few days, it only gets stinkier. Wool tends to be much better for that. It also doesn't catch fire and melt to you, which if that's important in your line of work, then that's
Wait,
useful.
Repeat that? What are you?
Wool is naturally fire retardant.
Really?
Whereas, like, yeah.
Does everyone know this?
But clearly not Shireen. But sorry, that was me.
Wait, so are sheep fireproof?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously like a high enough temperature would still be fatal for them, but like yeah, that's Shireen's take home. Yeah, we don't respect the sheep enough. But, yeah,
no, we don't. That's a very
through fire.
powerful ability.
Yep, yeah. There's not even a sheep Pokemon that could like.
I was just thinking Pokemon as you said that. I was like, what a good defense. Wow.
Yeah. Someone send me a picture of a sheep Pokemon that you've designed, and I will describe it on the podcast. I don't know. It's unfortunately not a visual medium, but I'd still like to see your sheep drawings. All right, so wool is flame retardant. It's very useful in certain lines of work. It's not so important for other people. But I will say that, like, even sitting around the campfire, it is actually really shitty if your clothes melt to you. I've had gloves melt on my hands, and it was unpleasant.
Wow.
And that was only like a little bit, but I can assure you that people sitting around campfires do have their clothing catch on fire. This is not a thing. It's why all your tents have to be treated with a flame retardant treatment. It's that stuff that when your tent, if you put a tent away when it's wet and hot, you leave it in the back of your truck, it gets really sticky when you get it out. That's a flame retardant treatment on your tent.
Oh, wow.
Learning a lot about fire today. So the problem with wool, though, is that you have to treat it with care. Like, you don't want to be tumble drying wool, right? And it can kind of get misshapen. There are like hybrids. There's a thing called New Yarn, which I like a lot, which is like a wool synthetic hybrid. I have lots of stuff made of that. And then there are full synthetic things like I have a little base layer here. Again, this being mainly a podcast, only Shireen can see this.
I'm describing a piece of clothing. It looks like cloth.
all right, we're going to be fucked here for the next hour or so.
But what am I looking at? There's like it looked kind of like textured or something.
Yeah, so it's like got
ribbed?
this. Yes, it's ribbed.
I'll try.
Wood sleeve. We'll just move right past that. It's ribbed. And that's to allow like the little bits that touch your skin keep you warm, but then the channels allow for it to breathe, right? For moisture to move away and wick away from your body. So,
and that's the synthetic hybrid, or just the synthetic?
Yeah, this is synthetic. It's spandex and polyester. It's got this it's very thin. You can see through it, but it's also very warm. It's made by a company called Beyond Clothing. I would caution people against having too thick if you're planning on actually hiking or being active, or let's say you work in construction. You work in agriculture. Maybe you just have a job where you have to go to remote places. You're a doctor who has to treat people in remote places, or you're a wind turbine engineer, or you work on railway lines or something. If you're going to be active, having too thick of a base layer can be really annoying, because if it heats up, that's kind of your last option. And if it's really thick and you've tried to rely on that for most of your warmth, then you're going to overheat. And then when you overheat, you're going to sweat a lot. And when you sweat a lot, that sweat is then going to soak your layer, right? And then when it gets cold, you're going to be wet and cold. And that is bad. So consider if your base layer like a lightweight or a mid-weight thing, and try and get your warmth from something else is what I would suggest. I really like the New Yarn one. Like I said, there's one made by Black Diamond called a Rhythm t-shirt, which I really like. I've loaded those. They're often on sale. You can get them really cheap. If you're looking for something really cheap, I would say to just avoid cotton. So you can look for things which are polyester or nylon, and those are going to be a lot better than just your cotton t-shirt. They are going to smell. They're going to get pretty stinky, but you can often find them for around the same price, right? If it's very cold, you may want base layers for your legs as well. Good ones for those are hard to get cheap. I like ones that zip all the way off, like Chippendale style. Yeah, but you want zips all the way down the side.
Oh, zippers. So they're not pull-on.
No, yeah, because then you have to take your boots off, right? So if you're...
Oh, wow. Good thinking of everything.
Drop your trousers, put those on. Because taking your boots off in the snow and then hopping around...
No, I mean, it sounds very impractical, so that's cool that they thought of that. That's very smart.
Yeah, it's a nice... technology has given us many things. There's a company called Kuiu, who's chiefly a hunting company, but they make a really nice side zip leg base layer. which I think I would recommend for a lot of people if it's really cold where you are. With, I guess, trousers generally, they're a lot less complicated than upper layers, but the things you want in the cold really are, again, something that's not going to like cause you to sweat a lot. So I wouldn't suggest everyone like going around in waterproof trousers. I really like ones that have vents, like mechanical vents, so you can open up, so you can cool off. These guys, right? Like the pockets are mesh.
Mm-hmm.
So if you open the pocket, not only can you like get your accessories out, but you can also like vent off the heat that way. And so that way you don't soak them out with sweat, right? There's a company called Beyond who makes every possible weight and size of trouser. I really like their stuff. I use their stuff a lot. You can get knee pad pockets as well, which are super useful. Not only if you're like, you see them in military gear a lot, but if you're working, say, in construction or carpentry or something like that, you have to kneel a lot. It's really nice to have a little knee pad. So those get a recommendation for that. For a cheap one, the Prada make a pant called the Stretch Zion, which I think is really nice. Climb in them all the time. They can often be found really cheap. Your next thing is your active insulation. So you need to warm yourself when you're active, right? So there's two types of insulation in the system. There's active and static. One is for when you're moving, and the other is for when you're stationary. And your active insulation people used to call this a mid-layer, but that was back when people wore like wool jumpers, and you kind of had to keep it covered from the world, or it would get wet and stretched out and very, very heavy. But sometimes this will actually be your outer layer. So I don't think mid-layer is a great term. That's what they used to call it. People used to use fleeces a lot. Fleeces are fine, but again, they can get very, very heavy if they get wet. Some of them don't breathe very well, and they can sort of very quickly become too hot if you're exercising. And they're not very windproof. They don't block the wind at all. So a much better choice is something called a grid fleece. So like the base layer I was talking to you about, it has like a little grid pattern that allows for moisture and air to move away from your body. So like you're less likely to overheat. There's a really cool fabric called Polartec Alpha, which you should look for. Rather than like looking for a specific item, if you look for Polartec Alpha or Polartec Alpha Direct, then you can scout around for stuff that's on sale and find something that's really nice. It kind of looks a bit fleecy, but it's also a grid pattern. It's really warm and it's very small. I have a few things that are like made of that. I have one from a Moot called the Alpha 60. So there are different weights, right? 60, 90, 120. 60 is the least. I think 90, it's grams per square meter, but 90 grams per square meter is pretty much a good mid-zone for almost everyone. So that's what to look for in those. If you're looking for a cheap mid-layer, so a cheap way to stay warm while you're moving around, the US military has this thing called a waffle top, because inside of it looks like a waffle, right? Mm-hmm. I guess grid was, they like to give things baby names in the US Army. Oh, look, Shireen's got one. Yeah, like that. Yeah.
I love a waffle top. I'm always cold all the time, so
I'm also a cold person.
But yeah.
I do love a waffle top. Yeah. But yeah, those waffle tops, you can get them super cheap everywhere online. I would caution people against getting, it can be easy to find like a thing which has got like a waffle backer and a soft shell front, and it's like your wind shell, your rain shell, but those are really warm and they're really big and bulky, and it's quite hard to wear them if you're actually moving with any sort of intention. That's where you want to keep your things separate, so you can choose what, like, exactly how warm you are, rather than being forced to be like a certain level of warm. Talking of forcing people to do things, Shireen,
wow,
it's time for us to force them to listen to some adverts.
Let's do it.
We're back. So is Shireen's voice. And we are talking now about the other part of keeping yourself warm, which is static insulation. This is the like big warm jacket that everyone likes. Your happy jacket, the one that like makes the cold go away, right? The deal here is that like a big puffy jacket is pretty crappy to wear, again, if you're moving with any intention, right? Like unless it's seriously like Arctic cold, then it's hard to hike or climb in a big puffy jacket. So what this guy is for when you stop moving. So if you're hiking, that would mean when you stop to regroup or you stop to have a snack or to put your camp together or whatever, it's good to have like a really big jacket that is warm that you can toss on immediately. Putting clothes on once you are cold is generally not the deal. The deal is putting them on so you don't get cold, because all you're doing with all these layers, right, is trapping air against your body that is warm. That's what the grid parts in the grid fleece do, and that's what all the little feathers in the down jacket do, right? They're just trapping pockets of air that you heat up. So if you wait till you're really cold, it's going to take you a lot longer to get warm. The thing to do is when you're moving, you're nice and warm, you stop, you're going to get cold. So if you toss on that jacket then you can stay cold. Stay warm. Down jackets are really complicated. If there are a couple of issues with like cheap down jackets that make them probably best avoided. One is that if you're not using ethically sourced down, the industry can be pretty abusive, right? That down is comprised of feathers that come from ducks and geese. It's not very nice to ducks and geese to kill them and steal their feathers. And if you're going to do it at all, if that's something that you choose to do, you should at least try and find ethically sourced down, in my opinion. The other thing is that natural down, when it gets wet, it clumps up and it doesn't work anymore. It doesn't insulate you, right? No, like nicer downs, modern downs are treated with water repellent coating, so they don't tend to do that as much. But the other thing with down is like a lot of numbers get thrown at you when you're looking at a down jacket. Like if you look at them on the internet, it's all kinds of information. Some of that stuff is bullshit. The things that are important are the fill power and the fill weight. The fill power it tells you how many cubic inches of loft 1 ounce of that down will fill. So a higher number is better, right? A higher number is more puffy. And then your fill weight tells you how much of that down is used in a jacket. So a higher fill power jacket with a lower, let's say a 400 fill power jacket with 60 grams of fill weight would be as warm as an 800 fill power jacket with 30 grams of fill weight. So once you get your fill power and your fill weight, then you get a pretty good idea of how warm a jacket is going to be. So the other alternative to natural down is synthetic down, right? Where that stands out is like it can get wet, and you can generally like baby it a bit less, but it doesn't pack down as well, and tends to be heavier. And you don't get fill power, but you do get fill weight. So the jacket I use is synthetic because like I like to shove it in my bag, and sometimes it's wet, or like sometimes it gets a bit wet, right? I don't like to have to like try and baby it so much. I also, for ethical reasons, prefer that. There's a company called Primaloft, Prima. They make synthetic insulation sort of very good, and they make some from post-consumer recycled plastics, and they have some that are biodegradable as well. So I really like.
Cool.
Yeah, it's cool, right? Like I saw something a while ago on how ducks and geese are treated for like down, and it made me very sad.
I was like, I didn't really want to ask because I don't really need to know more than I already do because I don't buy that stuff anyway. But are there birds that die exclusively for their feathers, or at least do they die for meat and their feathers?
I think they die exclusively. I'm sure they are eaten, but they are raised, like the commercial product is their feathers, basically, because they kill them much younger. Yeah, it's shitty. There are like ethically sourced downs, which I think if you're a consumer of animal products, for the most part I avoid them. Most of my wool stuff I got before I was vegan, but I think if you're picking between wool and down, I think the down industry it's hard to be mean to sheep in the way that people are mean to poultry, because sheep just aren't having it, they'll die.
Well, also, you're not like shearing wool is different than plucking feathers.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Then killing an animal to there's a distinct thing going on there. So yeah, I prefer not to have. I have a few down jackets that I keep and baby and look after, but for the most part, I use generally these are called belay parkas. the sort of static insulation layer, because when you're belaying, when you're climbing, right, you don't put them on for climbing, but then when you're on belay, you're stationary, so you put them on. And it's nice to have a hood on these too, right? Because you don't want to be like, oh, I've got to get my beanie out, got my jacket on. You want to just be able to put your one big warm jacket on, and then you're warm. So,
is it true that you can lose like heat from your head and you're like, I've always heard that like if you wear a beanie, you can stay warm better. Is that not true?
Yeah, I mean, you can lose heat from your head, and so it's a part of your body.
I mean, okay, I know technically that makes sense, yeah, but it's like maybe it's like a mom thing to say to their kids, where it's just like, cover your head, don't go out when your hair is wet.
Yeah, you can lose heat from any sort of exposed surface area, right, uninsulated part of your body. I think sometimes people overestimate the role played by your head. Like, people say you lose 90% of your heat from your head. This isn't true, right? Like,
okay.
This is why we don't climb mountains in like fur hats and Speedos. Like, you do want to cover your head when it's cold, and it can make a big difference, especially like your ears, where the circulation is close to the skin. They can get cold. Your nose, right? You can get frost nip. Your nose and your ears. So like you do want to cover those things. Having a keffiyeh or is it a snood? Is that what it's called?
I don't know.
Okay.
But that's enough.
Yeah. Okay. A buff is a trade name. A bufanda. A buff?
A buff.
Like a bufanda. Yeah.
Oh. No. A keffiyeh is a great suggestion. Good job.
Yeah. I have a keffiyeh that I've worn up and down many mountains. It's really nice because if you tuck it into the neck of your jacket, it kind of blocks all the wind gaps. And then it's already warm because it's been inside there. So when you go from jacket to sleeping bag, you just wrap that guy around your shoulders.
Nice.
And then you're warm. Multi-purpose. I love, and also if you have a keffiyeh, you can use it to pre-filter water, right? Because you want to get rid of the turbidity. So like if you're filtering from muddy water, you can put your keffiyeh over the lid of your bottle and then rubber band it down.
Wow.
Scoop. Yeah. Many used to make a sling out of it. I once used it to hold gauze on a leg wound that I had.
Wow. You've lived a life.
Yeah, many of my keffiyehs lived a life. I'm just here for the ride. So yeah, that's your down jacket. If you do want like a animal down, duck down jacket, the Decathlon ones are really good for the money. Decathlon is a French sport sector. It's like French REI or European REI. It's huge in Europe, not so big in America, but their stuff's excellent value. Also, if you want to get really dorky about down jackets and warm jackets, the ultralight subreddit, a place where I definitely go sometimes, more times than I should, is you can find like someone has made a spreadsheet ranking like the fill power, fill weight, and price of different down jackets. So if you want to get into it, you can get really into it there. You can spend a lot of your life on that subreddit if you want to. So the next layer, and this kind of plays into the two insulation things, it's your wind layer. So a lot of the way we experience cold as humans is through wind, right? Because of the way that's why we have the concept of wind chill, right? The air rushing past you cools you a lot more than that same temperature without the air rushing past you. And this is often how we experience cold in the outdoors, especially, right? So having something like active insulation is great, but often like that alpha fabric, for instance, you can see through it. It can be very warm, but it doesn't do anything to block the wind. And that's sort of by design, right? Because it's allowing vapor to move out, which is what you want. But you do sometimes, especially in windy conditions, need a layer to block the wind. That's your wind layer. It also helps a lot in not trashing your expensive insulation layers. Like a very nice down jacket will sometimes have a very low... The denier count is like the thickness of the fabric. So a nice down jacket will still can often have a low denier count. It's not really designed to be like... So like recently I've been out in Hukumba building shelters for people, right? So I'm constantly carrying lumber and, using tools and cutting stuff. And if you wear your fancy, expensive, super light down jacket, you're going to shred it. And then you're going to end up with little patches of duct tape all over it. And now your expensive down jacket's not as warm as it used to be.
Womp womp.
Yeah, sad time for you. So you can avoid this by either just not wearing it for that, or covering it with a wind layer, which also helps because even those down jackets, often like the wind can get right through them. So a wind layer is a really nice option for a number of those reasons. Also, you can often just wear it above your base layer, and even down to pretty cold when you're moving, trail running, like people trail run, I'm sure they'll have already know this, but if you're hiking, you're trail running, if you're climbing, a wind layer can really like increase the range of temperatures which you can work in without getting too cold. And like they're very small. Mine is like the size of maybe a tennis ball when I pack it down, but it makes you a lot warmer. You don't want one that blocks all of the wind because then you won't be able to, it won't be breathable, right?
Oh.
So you want something that's a little bit breathable. The one I looked up the one I like. It's called a Mountain Hardwear Core Air Shell, but Core is spelled with a K. That's how you know it's cool.
Of course it is.
Yeah, you gotta get it in. Get it in there somewhere. And then wear is spelled like like wearing clothes. And so double puns on their spellings. It's made of a stuff called Pertex Quantum Air, which is really cool. It feels like silky, but it's a synthetic fabric and it's really nice. And it's very small and it's very light. And like you could put it in if you had like if you're wearing like cargo trousers, you could put it in the side pocket, or cargo shorts if you're that kind of person. So those, if you're looking for a cheaper thing to block the wind, like you can find pretty cheap wind cheaters right out there. You don't want something that's very plasticky and then kind of clammy. You're going to sweat up in. You can get surplus British windproof smocks that are really nice. I use those all the time when I'm working outside because they have loads of pockets. They're nylon cotton blend, so they're not all cotton, and they're very like robust. They're not going to wear down or like get destroyed if you're carrying lumber or rock climbing. Right? If you're into climbing, like a lot of this stuff you need something with a thicker face fabric. Otherwise, you're going to destroy it when you're climbing, especially if you're climbing somewhere like Joshua Tree, where like the rock is like sandpaper and it eats your clothing. The final layer is your waterproof, right? It's the final one because like you want to avoid wearing your waterproof really. Like I think far too many people they rely on waterproof coats when it's not raining enough to need one. The problem with waterproofs is if rain can't come in, moisture can't really come out. Like even fabrics like Gore-Tex, Pertex, and they say that they're breathable, but I think anybody who's tried to exercise hard in a Gore-Tex jacket will tell you that they're not. Like if you're hiking with a group and you all put on your Gore-Tex, then you need to move slower because you're going to overheat and then you're going to get wet from the inside because you're sweating. And that's not what you want. And so waterproof is important because when it's really wet and you're outside, you don't want to get soaked, right? But it's also not something that you should be wearing most of the time. What you want to look for in a waterproof, again, there are like statistics, numbers. One of them is it's the pressure resistance of the fabric. Like it's expressed as the height of a watercolumn in millimeters until it can like push through the water resistance of the fabric. Does that make sense?
No, not at all.
Okay. Thank you for your honesty. That's good. If you imagine like that, like I have a tube, right? It's a linear tube, like a cylinder. And then I put it on my waterproof fabric, right? I put my waterproof fabric at the bottom of the tube. And then I put 1 millimeter of water. It doesn't do anything. 2 mils, 3 mils, 4 mils. I keep adding until it pushes through the fabric.
So that's called like a pressure? What do you call it?
Yeah, that's a pressure. It's sometimes expressed in pounds per square inch as well.
Okay, cool.
It's useful if you're like skiing or snowboarding. Especially if you're skiing or snowboarding badly and you're going to spend a lot of time like sat on your ass. Or otherwise working in snow, like kneeling in snow. That's very handy. There's also a statistic which is probably more useful. It's the millimeters of rain in 24 hours before it like wets out and becomes permeable. So if you live somewhere really wet, like Belgium or the UK, Belgium just sticks out in my head as a place where it rained all the time, but maybe that's just my bitterness. You're looking for like something in the 20,000 range. That's a jacket that you can pretty much wear all day in the wet and be fine. Gore-Tex Pro fabric, I know, is 28,000. So I think that's kind of your gold standard. But anything over 20,000 is fine. And then breathability is the last one. Moisture vapor transfer rate. And again, anything over 20,000 is good. The other thing to look for in a waterproof is taped seams. So, like, the bits where it's stitched together.
Mm-hmm.
If there isn't tape behind those seams, then water can get in through that stitching.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I've seen people get very expensive jackets which inexplicably don't have tape seams. I think it's like maybe a fashion jacket or something, but have like wet, like down every seam, like they take off their jacket.
I would love to see you with a group of like people just that are wearing these kinds of clothing and just like you judging them quietly.
That's me every day, Shireen. Every day when you see me, I'm judging people for their outdoor clothing. It just happens inside my head. It's my inside voice. I'm happy that people are outside, and I just want them to have a comfortable and enjoyable experience.
That's a good like thing to focus on if you want to like make sure it's like not a fashion jacket versus like utilitarian whatever, is it going to actually be helpful, or are you just going to look cool? Or is it going to do both?
Yeah, you can do both. You should feel good in what you're wearing and wear things that make you feel happy about yourself and your body and however you want to appear is fine. Like, I don't give a fuck. Just want you to be comfortable and safe.
But he will judge you.
I won't judge you. I will judge you if you're doing something that might put you in danger. Or someone more accurately, like, you can put yourself in danger again. I don't care. Like, if you want a free solo, fucking have it. But don't put other people in danger without their consent, I guess. Which you're doing if you go outside, because someone has to come get you if you get in trouble out there. And that's not a risk-free endeavor. All right, returning from my judgmental character to waterproof jackets. So, Shireen, you know what else I am judging?
How my voice sounds.
No, I'm remaining aloof from judgment, Shireen. I would never. But I am judging the products and services that support this show, and I'm judging them poorly because gold is not a good way to spend your money.
But we still love our jobs.
We do love our jobs. Yeah, we do. I do enjoy my job. I like my job. I just I want you to have nice jackets and not Ronald Reagan commemorative coins. So here's some adverts. We're back, and we're going to talk a little bit more about waterproof jackets. I think it's important. The other thing you want to look for, right? So your tape seams are good, and then I like to have mechanical venting, which is
you mentioned that earlier. What does that mean?
So these are vents that I can open where air, as opposed to venting through the fabric, I want to vent through a zip that I can open up. Right, so like I'm wearing a puffy jacket right now. That's a mechanical vent, right? Why am I saying that?
Wait, because unzipping your jacket is mechanical venting?
Shireen can see me. No one else can. It's like the Sixth Sense. I'm a dead person, and Shireen is the only person who can see me. That is
wait. Can I just get that straight? So just unzipping your jacket counts as mechanical venting?
Yeah. So like if you have a nice waterproof jacket, it will have pit zips.
Okay, got it. Just what a fancy way just to say unzipping something.
Well, yeah, okay. Well, because you want like this is not right. If I unzip and it's a pocket inside, that's not mechanical venting. Because
James just unzipped a chest pocket for those listening.
Welcome to the podcast where I do stuff and Shireen tells you what I do. Yes, if pockets are not mechanical vents, right? But you want a way, so you've got pit zips. Some of them will have chest zips.
Oh, okay.
Ways to force that hot air out and allow breathability to happen, right? So I like that in rain jackets, and then I also like a hood, right? Because having a wet head isn't fun. So this one I like to have a hood, and the Belay Parker I like to have a hood. Sometimes the wind jacket I like to have a hood. If you're doing climbing and you're doing I never really wear a hood when I'm cycling, but other helmet active, if you're caving or canyoneering, might be a good idea to check the hood situation with the helmet that you wear for that activity. So like for climbing, lots of people will say they have a helmet compatible hood, but I don't know what helmet those people are wearing because they don't fit over like even a pretty low profile climbing helmet. So if you can go to your local outdoor shop, take your helmet. Don't be afraid of trying it on with the helmet on. And you want these all really to be cut to allow you to move, right? Like a lot of modern outdoor gear, it looks really nice, like when you're going about town, but it's cut kind of too tight in that while it looks very trendy, it can inhibit your movement, right? And so you want to be aware of that. You may have to size up. And it's not because you've got bigger, it's because clothes have got smaller.
Also, if you're layering, that would make sense anyway, right?
Yeah, definitely. And you want to have your waterproof cut so it can go over your stuff, right? Because if it rains, you just want to chuck that thing on. And likewise, you want to have that big ballet parka cut so that it can fit over your other layers, right? Because, again, you want to be able to chuck that on as soon as you stop. And your windproof jacket too, so you can use it to protect your more expensive. You can even, I know people who do the windproof jacket over the Gore-Tex just to protect it, right? I have two Gore-Texes. I have one that's very small and very thin, and that I keep as an emergency. Like if I don't expect it to rain or expect for it, but I'm going on a week-long trip, I'm not gonna, want to be completely fucked if it rains. So I bring a little one. It's called the Mountain Hardwear Minimizer. Kind of the name gives it away, but it's just very small. It's made of Gore-Tex Paclite, which is like the lower tier of acceptable Gore-Tex, but it's fine. I go outside a lot and I use it and it's fine. It doesn't breathe quite as well, but you can again overcome that, right, with some zips that unzip. And then if it's going to be wet all day, I have a jacket that's a bit heavier, thicker, packs bigger, but the one I have is from a hunting company called Forloh. Frloh. It's really nice. Often, for some reason, hunting stuff in recent years has got a lot better, and outdoor stuff kind of hunting stuff used to be shitty, but it's kind of overtaken it for some reason. And sometimes it's also nice to have stuff that isn't bright orange and isn't like.
Do you have a theory of why that is?
Because people have a metric shit ton of money, and wealthy people have got into backcountry hunting because they want to have a big dead thing, but these are not people who maybe some people are sending it really fucking hard doing hunting, doing like 10, 12-day hunts, and they're hardcore outdoors people as well. And then very wealthy people that like to be uncomfortable, and they will spend a lot of money on expensive jackets. That's my theory. Yeah, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Those are the two things that you really want. With any waterproof, you do need to take care of them. A thing with Gore-Tex that everyone should be aware of is it has what are called forever plastics in it. And they are really not good for the environment. And not only are they not good for the environment when it's made, and this isn't just Gore-Tex, right? Gore-Tex is a brand, they make fabrics, and I'm not just saying it's with all those like those kinds of multi-layer laminate waterproofs. And it's not just when they're made; it's also when water sloughs off them, right? Like so when it rains on you, and then that the rain, the raindrop goes into the stream goes into the river, and the river goes into the ocean. The little forever plastics are still there, and that's not good. I would imagine, as with many things, it's more not good than we know right now. So some brands like Fjällräven won't use Gore-Tex in their stuff for that reason. They don't have any forever plastics. Instead, they use waxes. I think people are kind of maybe have forgotten, or like you don't see as much of it as you used to. But wax jackets are really good if it's going to rain all day. If you're not so concerned about weight, you can get like a waxed cotton jacket or a waxed canvas jacket. Like Carhartt makes some, right? Or Filson. I have a nice Filson jacket that I wear a lot, and it's way less fragile, but it is much heavier. But it's also better for the planet. So that's something to consider. If you do have a Gore-Tex jacket, like it's not something that I feel good like having 5 Gore-Tex jackets, and like buying new ones every year. Like you should try and take care of them. And there's a product called Nick Wax, which is really good. You should use Nick Wax stuff when you're washing any of your outdoor. Right? If you're washing down, you should use Nick Wax down wash, or you'll really fuck up your expensive down jacket. So I think that's a good thing. And then wax. Like consider how often you're really out in an absolute downpour, and if that's not very often, like maybe you're okay with a wind layer, or like just waxing the shoulders of your. Like I have a cotton jacket behind me that I just wax the shoulders of. But like it's like a smock with lots of pockets, and I just put wax. I bought some Greenland wax, which is a Fjällräven thing, and wax the shoulders, so the shoulders are impermeable to water.
Does it look different? Like, does it look like shiny?
Yeah, it looks a little bit shiny, but like it's not bad. And if you do it like better than me, then it won't look as shiny. But you can
Yeah,
see
I can see that. It's not
little
that
bit of
bad.
shine. No, it's not that bad. It's not. It's kind of fun. I don't know. Maybe other people do other things for fun, but I kind of like it. You get a hairdryer and you rub the wax on, and then you melt it in with a hairdryer. That's what I do on Saturday nights. Insight into my life. So the last thing that I wanted to talk about was extremities, right? I have Raynos where like...
Oh, I do too.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Wait, really?
Raynos
Wow.
gang, yeah. Look at my
I've
hands.
never met someone else that has it. No,
Yeah,
my
corpse
feet are
hands.
like yellow right now. I mean, not yellow. If I press them, they get yellow. But like, it's well, my feet and hands are always cold all the time.
Yeah. Same. And it's miserable. I hate having cold hands.
Literally, look at this. Wait, I just bought these recently. These are electric hand warmers.
Oh,
They're
wow.
chargeable, and I keep them. Now I just walk around with these all the time.
That's
very
great.
nice.
Yeah, it is nice to have warm hands. And if you're a fellow hands colder, there are some things you can do. I think sometimes people wear really thick gloves that stop the hands moving, and that doesn't really increase circulation, or they'll have cold wrists. And then it's kind of, there's like a temperature, that blood's getting cold, right? It's hitting your hands. So I found like having a base layer or a active insulation layer with thumb loops really helps. Because then the thumb loops make sure that the sleeve goes all the way into the glove. And I would encourage you, rather than wearing one big ass pair of gloves, to have like a glove. I know this sounds really dorky, but like a glove system. So like a thin, fleecy glove, and then a shell glove, which is either waterproof or windproof. And then if you want to, you can then stack that with a mitten on top of that, right?
Mittens.
Yeah, I love a mitten.
Mittens are so cute.
Yeah, get your person who sews in your life to sew you a pair of mittens. Have them join with a little string, so you can run that through the sleeves of your jacket, so you don't lose them. I used to have those.
Yeah, me too. I feel like, or maybe I just imagined having one. I can't figure out what are memories and what are not memories anymore.
Yeah,
but I love those kinds of mittens.
Yeah, maybe I'll knit you some, Shireen, next winter.
James.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
I can't believe you have. Wait, how did you say it in British voice?
Mittens.
No,
How do you say it?
Raynouns.
Raynos.
Raynos. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, I think so. Like Rayno, they're French. Yeah, that's what
Anyway.
I'm guessing. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think mine maybe, I don't know, maybe it's just from being naturally cold, but holding onto the handlebars of a bicycle racing over cobbles for years and years has really fucked the circulation and sensation in my hands.
Yeah, I can
it's
imagine.
the same thing that happens if you work a jackhammer.
Wow. I never
Yeah,
thought
my
of
hands get cold. Yeah, it's not good for the human body to do anything that much. Outdoor Research make a good glove system, but they only make it for the military and they won't sell it to you, which is lame. Yeah, there's a lot of one of the reasons that some of this surplus clothing comes up is because it's designed as a system, which is good, right? It's one piece designed to work with another piece. And like, for instance, Patagonia makes a protective combat uniform for the army. As much as they would like to not talk about it, it's still true. And I've written about it before, but they make a really good system and it's great. And it's just got they actually have this little graphic that's like, if it's this cold, wear this. If it's this cold and wet, wear this.
Mhm.
If it's this cold and windy, wear this. And it's very handy for people, especially people who may not have grown up or had that kind of experience or just had the chance to try different products because they're very expensive, right? It's very handy to be like, okay, this, and this. And then you only need these 5 or 6 pieces that way, as opposed to having dozens of jackets and dozens of different things for different weathers. So it works very well, and it frustrates me that they don't do the same thing when selling to people who are not in the military.
Yeah.
So the other things I wanted to do with extremities real quick, socks. Socks, it goes the same way as gloves. Like you don't want
Sock system?
a sock system. Yeah. I'm glad that you're picking up what I'm putting down, Shireen.
I have a sock system, but it's not anything about this.
Tell
But
me
my
about your... Yeah.
Okay. Well, my feet are always cold. This is not a sock, but I do wear this in my house.
Oh, wow. Shireen is showing me, it looks like, it's kind of a moon boot, but made of fluff. It looks like a Yeti's foot.
It's very warm. I don't wear shoes in my house, so I either always have those slippers on or socks. But my sock system is these socks can never mingle. I have outside socks, I have house socks, and I have bed socks. And those socks remain in their sections. An outdoor sock cannot come in my bed. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. No, I'm fascinated to learn more about this. When we stop recording, I'm going to inquire more about Shireen's sock collection. Yeah, very interesting to me.
Anyway, yeah, that's eroticism. But I think, so same thing with gloves, you're saying like they should be layered?
Yeah, I mean, with socks, I think the big thing is to like not always be trying to, I think people want to wear like a big, thick wool sock because it's cold. And then if you're kind of cram that into your same boot, you're going to restrict circulation. You're not going to be able to move your feet, right? So what I would do instead is either have a couple of pairs of thin socks or use a warmer fabric. So like alpaca wool is very warm for its weight. The other nice thing about wool socks is, again, they insulate when they're wet, right? So your feet are going to sweat if you're moving. And so you want something that's not going to get your feet cold, right? Especially if you're a person who already gets cold feet. So merino wool is good. Alpaca wool is very good. But you don't want to restrict with like one big fluffy sock. You can get insulated boots if it's really cold. Right down until below freezing, I don't like insulated boots. Because again, I don't like my feet to get sweaty. And
what would you wear on your feet for that kind of weather?
They get really cold. Just Gore-Tex boots. I wear the same boots for almost everything unless it's like jungly. If you're going to get wet, like Gore-Tex boots suck, right? Because they take forever to dry. So like if you're in the jungle and the water's going to come over your boots, then you shouldn't wear Gore-Tex boots. If you're not, I have some... Would you like to know exactly what boots I have?
Sure. I mean, we're not sponsored though. Maybe we should.
No, yeah. I did get some of this shit for free when I was working in the outdoor industry, but no one's paying us to say this. I have Salomon Quest 4D Gore-Tex boots.
I think I have... Wait, I have those. Wait, no. Which ones do I have? I did like a bunch of research a couple years ago when I got my new hiking boots. And I feel like I have the Salomons. Or those were the ones No. I do have the Salomons because I returned the other one that everyone likes, which is... What's it called? The Hokas.
Hokas. Oh yeah, no. Hokas make great, lovely running shoes. I don't have a preference for them.
I think they were. I mean, I just didn't understand the hype, so I remember switching over to or returning those and getting the Salomons. Wow, look at us.
Yeah. Team Salomon over here.
Yeah.
They're vegan too.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's fun.
If you have leather boots, you can snow seal them around this time of year, but then they'll be a bit less breathable, but a bit more waterproof. But consider not over cramming like thick socks into boots that are the same size. If you're going to get a specific pair of winter boots, get them a size bigger, and then you could wear a thicker sock. I would probably do that before I went to an insulated boot until it was really cold, like Arctic stuff. You then need an insulated boot. Vask makes some nice insulated boots that I've used. And then hats is the last one. Hats, again, like it depends a little bit on the temperature, but I have a couple of wool beanies that I got years and years and years ago. And they're very good and they're very warm. The only thing is when they get wet, they kind of stretch out a bit. So they don't love getting wet. You might want to put a hood over yourself. Otherwise, a fleece beanie is really good. People are sleeping on the fleece beanie, but like a micro fleece stretchy beanie is very nice. I tend to take them when I travel because I'm a cold person and planes are cold. So if I have that and my little keffiyeh in my bag, then I can kind of wrap myself up on the plane. And I probably look a bit weird to everyone else, but I don't care because I am warm and planes are cold. I think that is the end of my TED Talk on warm clothing.
I didn't think we would talk for an hour about cold stuff.
Shireen, I didn't think we'd keep it under an hour.
Wait, really?
Yeah, no. I've been training my whole life for this shit. Like I used to, like, my whole job used to be to tell people what to wear and take with them when they go outside.
Wait, really?
So, yeah, I was outdoor industry journalist for years and years. And that was how I started when I was a little baby journalist.
So you're the expert here.
A little baby journalist. I don't think I'm an expert, but I will say, I tell you what, there's my other little soapbox. You will read a lot of reviews, and sometimes, like the reviews for Boots did, they steered Shireen in a good direction. Not everyone who's writing those reviews is going outside very much, is what I will say. or sending it very hard. Some of them undoubtedly are, but a lot of them are trying to get you to click a link, which will return a certain percentage to the website that you're clicking the link from. So 4 or 5% back, right? And you may, for instance, some of the brands I've mentioned here don't have that. It's called affiliate marketing. And if brands don't have affiliate marketing, you generally can't put it in articles for lots of magazines about the outdoors. This is something that I fucking loathe. And you can't be honest and say, this is my favorite thing. Everything's designed to be SEO'd and to get you to click something and to return some affiliate revenue to the website. So I would take a lot of those reviews with a pinch of salt. Also, just small brands struggle to get into a lot of magazines because they don't have the marketing money to send piles and piles of free stuff. So yeah, be cautious about what you read. And if you look around, if you're looking at this shit, like I absolutely have jackets that cost several $100s that I got for free, or
right, okay.
I made some employer pay for because I was going somewhere horrifically inhospitable to human life, like Alaska. Or Alaska's actually lovely. I'd like to live there. That's the dream, right? One day I'll podcast my way to $1 million and raise sheep in Alaska.
I was looking for tickets to Alaska yesterday, actually.
Oh, hell yeah.
I want to see
after
the
this show.
Lights.
We're talking about Alaska.
Yeah. I need to see those lights.
Yep. Yeah. Go get after it. But I don't really support moving to Alaska and colonizing people's land because shouldn't do that.
Fair.
Don't do extra colonizing. I'm already doing enough. I feel bad about it. So yeah, I would suggest people take those reviews with a pinch of salt. There are websites like Gear Trade where you can find used stuff. eBay, OfferUp. A lot of people buy outdoor stuff, go camping once, get cold, get wet, get sad, slap it on the internet and sell it for pennies versus what it's worth. So you don't have to buy any of this stuff new. Most of these companies also have bomber warranties. And I'm just going to leave that there as to the combination of secondhand purchasing and warranties, but you can probably join the dots.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me for this. I learned a lot.
Thanks for joining me, Shireen, and sharing with me your sock system.
I mean, yeah, that was really intimate. No, I think this stuff is like underrated how important it is. I feel like, unless you're always outdoors and you're an outdoorsy person, I think you wouldn't know exactly the best way to keep warm. And it's good to know what will actually help someone if you want to, I don't know, donate stuff to them. So
yeah, we have been plagued with donations of really shitty blankets, for instance. It's no one's fault. I genuinely understand that people care, and I'm so proud that people want to help, and it makes me so happy to see people taking the money that I know none of us have enough of and buying stuff. But for instance, a thick wool blanket is going to do so much more than 2 or 3 very thin microfleece blankets. If you're looking towards your local unhoused community, right? Again, think about things that are durable and that will still insulate when they're wet. Wool, if you do wool, then that's a great choice for a lot of those things. But perhaps we can have one of my unhoused friends on to talk about effective donations. The best way to help people who are unhoused is to give them money, and that they can buy the things that they need because they know about the things
that is good. That is a good point.
And so that's my last thing for today. Give people who need things money so they can buy them. All right, bye everyone.
Bye.
Sink into affordable luxury. Anabay is the only machine washable sofa inside and out. With stain-resistant slip covers and a cloud-like frame duvet, everything goes right in the wash. Plus, the modular design lets you change the look of your space anytime. Visit WashableSofas.com to upgrade your home. Shop up to 60% off site-wide, with sofas starting at just $699 and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Shop now at WashableSofas.com. Offers are subject to change, and certain restrictions may apply.
Pro drivers live for race day, but for small business owners, every day is race day. That's why going pro with Lenovo Pro matters. One-on-one advice, IT solutions, and customized hardware powered by Intel Core Ultra processors keep your business on the right track. Business goes pro with Lenovo Pro. Sign up for free at lenovo.com/pro.
Flag football is exploding, and iFlag is leading the way. As the Guinness World Record holder, iFlag hosts premier flag football tournaments nationwide for boys, girls, high school girls, and adults. From first-time players to elite competitors, iFlag delivers top-level competition, unforgettable experiences, and a community built around the game. Ready to be part of it? Join the movement. Find your tournament and learn more at iflag.org. That's iflag.org.
Elections! No, we're not talking about those elections. This is It Could Happen Here. We're talking about a bunch of other elections and how fucking terribly they went. I'm your host, Mia Wong, and with me is James Stout.
Hi, Mia. I'm stoked. I do love a good election. It's great to vote for people.
We are kind of talking about elections today, but the thing that we're actually talking about is what has happened to the left since 2011. And anyone who was around 2011, 2013, and like any time after that, one of the arguments that you got constantly was, okay, so 2011, you have Occupy, you have the movement of the squares, you have these millions of people like assembling in squares and trying to do direct democratic stuff and, you know, figuring it out and making it work and it not working and, you know, all the complicated and messy things that happen when you have real political movements. And that entire time, there was an entire chorus of dipshits whose only line was, well, if you want to get serious about taking power, you have to get into electoral politics. And these people got their wish. And now we are like almost a decade and a half out. I think we are finally in a position to objectively analyze how well this shit went. And oh boy! So join us as we wander from disaster to apocalyptic disaster and go over the wreckage of all of these very, very once promising and inspiring social movements.
Joy, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to hear yet another attempt at making the world better that in fact failed.
Yeah, so, okay, there's actually two places we could start here. So I'm going to let you pick. Do you want to start with Sarsia or do you want to start with Podemos?
Let's start with Podemos. I do enjoy a good Spain. I've just been reading about the another round of exhumations today. So I do love a country that has baked into its constitution amnesty for people who did fucking mass like Spain has more mass graves than anywhere apart from is it Rwanda or Cambodia? Cambodia is the only place I think that beats Spain for mass graves.
Jesus Christ.
A country which I cannot say enough has not finished its civil war and remains a post-dictatorship and will until it recovers, allows people whose fucking parents and grandparents were murdered in the street to recover their remains and grieve for them. Sorry, thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
No, this is good. Well, I mean, and part of the context of this whole thing is that this is one of the underlying things that causes the enormous uprisings in Spain in 2011. They have one of the biggest, I mean, actually, literally, one of the reasons Occupy happens is that there are specific people who are in, like, actually, we've talked to Vicky Osterweil on the show about this. Like, she was in Catalonia when this stuff started. There's like there were individual squares where there were like 1 million people.
Oh yeah, I was in Catalonia when this stuff started.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that brings Occupy to the U.S. is people who were there for that, being in the U.S. and like being in Zuccotti Park when Occupy started. And so, you know, they have one of the largest and most powerful like anti-austerity movements like anywhere in the world. It is very well organized. But one of the things that happens in this is very quickly there's an attempt to hijack this because people see the number of people who are in the streets. They see this as an opportunity to, you know, take electoral power, right? This is the whole line is like, we're serious about taking power, blah, 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 blah. And Podemos in particular is influenced by like some of the people on earth who I hate the most. They're influenced by like they deliberately call themselves post-Marxist, like left populist philosophers. Their model is Peronism. It is a shit show. It is a catastrophe. Like every single party who's ever tried their strategy of taking power has failed. Like left populism as a specifically like this kind of left populism as a strategy has a worse record for taking power in Europe than left-wing military coups. Like, it's that bad.
To be fair, left-wing military coups rarely succeed at the ballot box, so they use other means.
They're a more effective way of getting into power than this fucking electoralism shit. So for people who don't really remember, Podemos was like them and Sarzio were like the thing in like post Occupy, like in that moments of like these are the big like left like electoral successes. These are the things that are gonna take power. Podemos specifically, so the thing Podemos calls itself, like their whole strategy is to build what they call the electoral war machine. Their entire strategy is just to win elections. That's it. That's their whole thing. They're going to pull together a bunch of leftist groups. They're going to win elections. Did they ever win a single election? No. Zero. The entire time. It has been, since the formation of Podemos, it has been, 13 years? They have lost every single election in a row.
Yeah, they were in the Sanchez coalition government with the PSOE.
Yeah. Well, so this is the other interesting thing is that the thing that Podemos's like thing right originally was they had this whole sort of one of the things that was very popular in the early 2010s was this whole like we'll have a political party but it'll like take like I don't know, it'll take its policy from these direct democratic assemblies. Those assemblies never materialized. That was all a lie. Yet anytime someone tells you that their political party is going to take its direction from like assemblies in the street, they're lying to you. They're trying to get you out of the street. Don't believe them. So that was all nonsense. But the other big thing about Podemos was that they were supposed to be like the big like third force in Spanish politics, right? They were going to be like the new force that was going to come in. They were going to wipe away all the corrupt politicians. And they specifically, their big thing was that they refused to enter coalition governments. Now, fast forward to losing like 6 straight elections. And now, what is Podemos? Podemos is the permanent minority government coalition partner with the Spanish Socialist Party. And before you get excited about the Spanish Socialist Party, like, they suck. Like, they are.
And PSOE has done some base shit. I will always stand anyone who digs up Franco's rotting corpse and flies it across the country.
That does rip. But they're also mostly. Like they're also, I mean, they've kind of been forced to go a bit to the left, like by Podemos and like by the sort of transformations that happened, but they're also just like a bunch of dealerable shits. Like they're like literally, this is one of the parties that Podemos was formed to run out of power, and now they're just a permanent like minority coalition government. Pablo Iglesias, who is Podemos' like great political strategist, he was like their guy. He was the guy he like wore cool leather jackets and shit. And like he was the guy who was like in every
tell you what, you see a politician in a leather jacket, you fucking run.
Yeah.
You run a mile. That is peak dad's trying to look cool energy.
He has retired from politics in just abject failure because nothing ever fucking worked. One of the big things that, one of the big recent things that Podemos did was help the Socialist Party crush the massive wave of metalworker strikes that swept Spain in 2011 and 2021. So great stuff happening there. Like they're not literally fascists, and that's their selling point. They fucking lose every election, and they ran the social movements into the ground.
Yeah, it's they literally had a thing, didn't they? Like. Yeah, their initial manifesto was like to convert indignation into political change. And like the movement that began the occupation of the squares in Spain was called the Indignats or Indignados in Catalan or Spanish. Like their whole thing was like to channel this energy into a process which is literally designed to stop shit changing.
Yeah. And guess what? It didn't fucking change. They lost every election. They've never won an election. They're never going to win an election.
Yeah, remain in the streets, my Spanish friends, and Catalan friends, and Basque friends, and Galician friends, and other friends in Iberia.
Yeah. So, all right, moving on to... So, we talked about how Spain had one of the biggest, like, movement of the squares type things. Greece, I think, technically gets the honor of having the first post-2008 uprising, which was actually not an economic thing. It was... the cops, like, murdered a fucking kid, and people just lit shit on fire. Like it was fucking wild. It was. There's a quote about like those first protests that I was thinking about in like the height of 2020 when I was watching that guy in the Elmo mask with the Molotov, like, which is those first protests. It was like people. It wasn't that people weren't trying to build a political movement. They just wanted destruction because
they were angry and they wanted to burn shit down.
Abject fury at the cops just murdering this child. And partially also they murdered this kid like in Exarchia, which is like Greece's anarchist like neighborhood. So terrible idea by the police, terrible thing. Greece has repeated massive protests. One of the reasons they're having these protests is that Greece is forced to accept these like crippling austerity measures by the Troika, which is this group that was running the bailouts in Europe, composed of the International Monetary Fund, the European Central Bank, and the European Commission, which is basically the executive branch of the European Union with reps from all of the EU countries. And the product of this is that the only faction that ever actually mattered in the Troika was just Germany. Effectively, what was happening was Germany was imposing like a bunch of economic sanctions on.
This is when like the European Union became like what Germany says we do, especially with regard to this stuff.
In the context of these massive protests, Greece elects Syriza, which is supposedly this left-wing party that is going to, specifically the mandate they were handed was stop the austerity. And literally, they are in negotiations with the Troika. They have a plan in hand to tell the Troika to fuck off and for Greece to leave the European Union, to set up capital controls, to start, this is a process that would have, like, the only way this could have functioned is they start literally, like, seizing property from like a bunch of fucking yacht owners. And instead of doing that, literally at the last second, with the plan in hand at the negotiating table, Syriza folds. Instead, they cut a deal with the Troika. They impose literally the exact same austerity measures they were put in power to stop. And then, now having done this, they're now facing their own giant anti-austerity protests. And the thing that Syriza does is ally with the riot police, who, by the way, one of the ways that Syriza got people to support them was specifically by running on basically completely rebuilding the Greek police force, because Greece's police force is
fuck me,
just straight up a bunch of Nazis. And when I say that, I literally they vote. I think it's 97% of their members voted for the Golden Dawn, which is like the Greek neo-Nazi party.
Yeah.
And like so many of these people vote for the Golden Dawn that they can be considered like a significant part of the total of the Golden Dawn's base.
Yeah, and perhaps more importantly, of its like street fighting element that kills anti-fascists, right?
Those guys, like, the Golden Dawn eventually comes apart because they ordered the assassination of an anti-fascist rapper from Parliament and then had the guy killed.
Yeah.
Just fucking batshit. And those are the people who the Greek police are supporting. But Syriza needs them because they need the police to smash the anti-austerity movement to stop people from like knocking off their governments and stopping the austerity. And they do it. It works eventually after years and years and years and years of just smashing these protests with police. They're able to, they're able to stamp out the sort of the giant social movements. And the consequence of this is that they turn over Greece to just like a bunch of just murderously far-right anti-immigrant shitheads who are the people who currently run Greece. They're unbelievably right-wing. These guys are so right-wing, they were trying to find ways to claim credit for getting those like several hundred people on that migrant ship earlier this year killed. That's who currently runs Greece, and that's who Syriza like turned power over to, because they literally did nothing and destroyed their own base.
Yeah, it's probably worth like stopping to note here that like fear-mongering around migrants has been the thing that has moved like straight up fascists into power in much of Southern Europe, right? Like Italy and Greece. And like, even if you're not a person who lives at the border, like this shit is absolutely like the playbook that the far right is using all over the world, and they're absolutely using here right now. And we have an election year here, and like, you owe it to the world to correct that bullshit disinformation whenever you can. Now that we're talking about Greece, can we just briefly mention the Archer of Syntagma, the biggest Chad ever to walk the earth?
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't do it. I can't do an episode without this guy. If you are not familiar with Yanis Michailidis, this absolute legend who took a bow and arrow to the protests, given a 13-year sentence, and then escaped from prison. I think was recaptured, and then it went on hunger strike for a while. Just a series of exploits that are truly legendary.
Incredible. They replaced this with fucking just being another party that imposed austerity.
Yeah.
Like
no one's replaced that guy. He's still remained true to the cause.
That's true. But as they replaced the political movement that produced this guy with like just genuinely the greatest glow down in human history. Just terrible stuff.
Yeah, it's very sad. It could have been a wonderful thing. There are still like Greece has still a very strong and like a respectable anarchist movement. I'm trying to get over there they squat large areas of housing for migrants to like allow migrants to live in it, and it's extremely based. And I'm trying to go spend some time.
I forgot to mention this. So they also do this in Spain, and so I've talked about this on the show before, but I should mention it here since we're doing this. So one of Podemos's like regional allies is Barcelona and Camus. First thing that Barcelona and Camus did upon taking power was evict an immigrant squat because they knew it wouldn't have enough defenses to stop the police from evicting them. So fuck these people. Those people used to be anarchists. They're traitors. Fuck them.
Yeah, and this happens constantly, right? Like the Cnt entered into government in 1936 with the Spanish Socialist Party and got completely owned by Moscow in an extremely predictable fashion, and all their friends got, in some cases, literally flayed alive. Perhaps consider not doing that next time.
Yeah. So speaking of being flayed alive, do you know who else will flay you alive if you don't buy their stuff?
Is it the products and services that support this podcast? It's again, isn't it? They're all over that shit. We can't say that, can we? Just bleep it, Ian.
All right, we're back. So, all right, we need to talk about two other places where this kind of stuff happened. We're leaving Europe. We're gonna go to the Anglophone world.
No dear.
A deeply cursed place. So in the U.S., all of these same people gained power. Their giant political project and their only real political project was attempting to elect Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders lost 2 consecutive elections, first to Hillary Clinton, the most unpopular Democratic presidential candidate in modern history, and then lost a second election to Joe Biden, the man so senile he forgot what president he served as VP under. And I'm only mentioning this because these are the people who spend all of their time talking about how serious they are about taking power, and they got their ass kicked by, again, Hillary Clinton, the most unpopular candidate in the entire history of, like, the modern history of the Democratic Party, and Joe fucking Biden, a man, like, okay. And instead, the one guy they did run and managed to actually, like, get into power was, one John Fetterman.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, look, he's had some banging tweets, but he's been a complete fucking turd in his time in office.
I'm pissed about this because from the very beginning, I was like, this guy sucks ass. He's a Zionist. He's anti-immigrant. He fucking sucks.
He's anti-trousers. He opposes anything below the knee.
No one fucking believed me. His campaign was run by a bunch of fucking DSA people. And instead they elected John fucking Fetterman, who hates everyone who fucking worked with him, is just screaming like the same fascist anti-immigrant border shit.
He's also in the pocket of Big Egg. He's introduced a bill to not allow people to call vegan egg substitutes egg.
What? He's not even in like the pocket of like good Big Egg. Like he's not in the pocket of like big people who haven't realized that they're trans yet. No, he's in the pocket of bad Big Egg.
I think that's an act of solidarity. Like as a man with a giant bald dome, he somewhat resembles an egg, so he feels like communion with other eggs. I think that's what
makes sense.
Yeah.
So okay, that's the U.S. At some point, we're gonna do another episode about all of the just fucking absolute dipshits that they elected and the DSA elected in LA, who've been doing like just sweeping homeless camps. So fuck them. But that's not today. We're instead gonna move to Corbyn. So all right. So the British left. In the beginning of, and I know this is like impossible to imagine now, but in the beginning of the 2010s, Britain had a vibrant and expanding left. They had a bunch of street movements. They had the student protests. They had a bunch of riots, and all of that energy and all of those fucking people, got sucked up by Corbynism. And Corbyn lost an election to Boris fucking Johnson, a man who was ousted by his own party and replaced by Liz shorter term than a cabbage truss. Like, and all these people, I've had to talk to these people for fucking years and years and years, right? And their whole thing was like, well, okay, like, but the media rigged the election against us and the Labour Party was trying to sabotage us. Like, yeah, no shit. What the fuck did you expect was going to happen? Did you seriously think if you even like just remotely wanted to challenge capital at all. Did you seriously expect that the bourgeoisie were going to play by the rules? What the fuck did you think was going to happen? Did you think they were just going to fucking sit there and let you take power because your ideas were somewhat popular? Like, no, of course they fucking weren't. Of course they were going to sabotage you. And the whole fucking thing about the media, it's like, well, yeah, of course, you know, like, yeah, obviously, the media in Britain is run by the fucking Murdochs. Their press is unbelievably, insanely right-wing. Sure. However, you guys are the ones who decided to pick an arena where your candidate and your entire political project can be sunk by negative press attention. You picked that arena to fight. And then, on top of that, you ran a completely conventional political campaign, right? Literally all you did was fucking canvas. You ran a completely conventional political campaign that everyone's fucking Pikachu facing, that they had like one of the worst labor losses in modern history, right? Like, okay, what the fuck did you think was going to happen, right? And this is one of the reasons why electoralism doesn't work. Because if you're in a field that is entirely about the popularity of one person, and there's an entire apparatus that is better able than you to directly communicate to the entire population to tell them that one person is fucking bad, of course you're gonna fucking lose. Like, what did you think was gonna happen? And now, you know, the Labour Party is run by Keir Starmer, who is like the most right-wing Labour candidate since like Tony Blair.
He prosecuted the people who were in the streets in 2010, right? Yeah. Like that is where we've got to now. It's like we have a choice between like Rishi, like, send gunboats into the channel to sink the small ship Sunak, and the guy who wants to lock you up for taking a bottle of water from Boots in 2010. Like it's not a choice.
And the corporate left has been basically completely liquidated. The only thing that's left of it are these media organizations who are all tacking right as fast as they can possibly fucking move, because that's where the fucking money is, and because, you know, Starmer actually used to be a Trotskyite. And all of these people know that the way you actually, if you are on the left and you want to take electoral power in Britain, the way you do it is become a conservative. And it will work.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look at Tony Blair, right? He was extremely successful in like criminalizing being a teenager, and these insanely right-wing policies. Again, people aren't familiar with antisocial behavior orders in Britain. They should look them up. And like,
oh my god,
machines that make noise to keep young people out of public space. Yeah. Like like the shit he was doing was insane. And British people continue to, well, look, Britain's electoral system, if you think America's electoral system is fucked, check out First Past the Post. Like, fully insane. One of the areas I lived when I was a kid, like, you just didn't have an option. There was someone named Giles or similar kind of like Giles vibing name, or a token Lib Dem candidate, and like, you know, Marmaduke was your only choice, really. Like, which is why I did not engage in the practice of voting in the United Kingdom. But yeah, it is a fuck system.
Yeah, and again, it's like, well, yeah, you chose a rigged system to participate in the first place, and then just like, well, you lost. So, well, yeah, it was like, yes, you can complain that it was rigged against you, but you should have known that going in. If you were genuinely serious about taking power, you had to know that, and you fucking didn't. And now your entire country has been absolutely destroyed. So yeah. That's the UK, and we're going now, and so from there we're going to pivot to Latin America, where there is a very, very long history. In fact, a lot the Latin American parties we're going to be talking about mostly aren't even parties that took over from the momentum of 2011 like uprisings. They're from like the 2001 movement. Yeah. So people who hijacked like 2 generations back of social movements by this point.
Yeah. And I think that the post 2011 stuff was inspired by the pink wave stuff in Latin America, right? Like, it sort of goes around in a circle.
Yeah, so now we're going to check in on how the pink tide's doing. And the answer is absolutely dog shit. So we're going to go to Ecuador first. So, okay, Ecuador is right now a complete fucking disaster. It shouldn't be like this, though. In theory, Correa is like the guy, and he's like the leftist guy in Ecuador. He is their guy who came out of the pink tide. And in theory, his party should win like basically every Ecuadorian election from now to the end of time. They should, in theory, have the easiest job of like any electoralist we're talking about in this party. They had a decade in power to just completely destroy all of their political opposition and, you know, to completely rebuild the economy and political landscape in a way that would have made the right taking power impossible. Instead, his party is completely unelectable and have been out of power for 8 fucking years after Lenin Moreno, who is the guy that the hand-picked guy that they picked to run their own party, purged them all, tried to have Correa arrested, and spent the entire rest of his career being a right-winger. Now, even after they got purged from their own party by the guy that they handpicked to put into power next after they turned out to be a right-winger, even after that happened, they still should have been able to win like every fucking election. However, Correa, instead of like doing normal leftist stuff, spent like his entire career sending riot police to beat the shit out of indigenous ecological protesters who didn't want their drinking water to be poisoned by mines, which means there are a huge number of like indigenous leftists who should be part of like the left-wing base who will not under any circumstances vote for Correa even if he was running against literally the devil because he fucking beat the shit out of them. Like, fuck you. Like, and you know, and this one I should briefly explain. Like, okay, this is obviously a very, very simplified. It's a political. I mean, I'm going to do a political compass thing that's very simplified, but I think gets across one of the major kind of like breaks in a lot of Latin American countries that have real lefts and also whose economies are largely based on resource extraction. Which is that, okay, so you know you have your kind of political compass like you would in the U.S. You have a left-right axis. But in a lot of these countries, the up-down axis isn't like statist, anti-statist. The up-down axis is, on the one hand, you have like developmental extractivists, and on the other hand, you have ecological anti-extractivists. So what this means in practice is there's this giant divide over whether or not you should do drilling on indigenous land. So, for example, you have the current right-wing Ecuadorian government, which is extractivist and right-wing. And this means they think you should drill on indigenous land and you should take all of the money you get from that and give it to rich people. There is, you know, Correa's government was extractivist and left-wing, which means that, you know, you do all the mining on indigenous land, but then you take the money and you give it to a welfare state. And then opposed to him was a bunch of anti-extractivist indigenous ecological groups who want redistribution, but they don't want people poisoning their water with mines. So they oppose Correa because they don't want their shit mined. And then Correa's also opposed by these like liberal environmental NGOs who like don't want the Amazon destroyed, but also like poor people can go fuck themselves. And this has made the way the constellation of these things have worked out means that like what should be like a pretty normal left-right political alignment thing has gone completely nuts. There's a bunch of sort of like ecological indigenous groups who have like swung right because the right wingers are the only people who will support them against Correa. Meanwhile, the actual like indigenous electoral opposition in its various forms is a complete fucking disaster. Pachakutik, which is like the big sort of like indigenous electoral alliance. They keep running this guy named Yaku Perez, who is like, he's like the only person in the entirety of Ecuador who's more unelectable than Correa is. Like nobody even the indigenous opposition to Correa like doesn't like him. So and you know, eventually Yaku Perez like left the party, but it doesn't really matter because they still just lose every single election. The left is they're completely dysfunctional. And you know, there's other like things going on here too, which is that like, for example, Correa's like has an unbelievably hardline anti-abortion stance. Like he threatened to resign if his party tried to pass legislation that would allow abortion in the case of rape. Like that's how anti-abortion this guy is. Fucking
that's
nuts.
Bad.
This is like okay, yes, this is a very, very Catholic country, right?
Sure.
Even by that standards, that's fucking nuts. Like,
yeah, that's
Jesus
bad.
Christ.
Oh yeah, that's rough.
You know, so and the product of this is that a country that has a decently center left electorate in theory has produced 3 straight conservative governments. These governments have absolutely annihilated the Ecuadorian economy and the welfare state and left it prey to organized crime, who, you know, unlike the just completely dysfunctional Ecuadorian state, can at least provide like a semi-stable income. But the downside of this is that they're organized crime. So, you know, not things going very badly. You've probably seen some of the like absolutely wild videos of stuff of like people storming like armed groups just like storming like TV stations. They've assassinated actually several presidential candidates now.
Yeah, so, that was it's been there on a wild one.
Yeah, it's really bad.
On Christmas Eve, I was talking to a family from Ecuador, had come to the US to get some medical treatment for their son, who very manifestly needed help. And they were telling me like just of their life experiences, and like it was bad. It was like I've been to some places where violence it happens, and like the stuff that they were telling me was shocking.
It's gotten really, really bad since basically between 2015 and 2017, and it's just like progressively gotten worse as these right-wing governments have stayed in power. And right now there hasn't been an alternative to them, because the electoralists, who are again the people who are supposed to be serious about taking power, are just a complete fucking disaster and can't do anything.
Yeah, Correa literally can't go back to Ecuador now, right?
I think he might be. I think he can go back now. There was a while where there was a warrant out for his arrest. I think he's back now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but the ray of light for Ecuador is that Ecuador still has a lot of very militant street movements who've actually been winning concessions from governments when they go into the streets. So that's good. Inshallah, one day the electoralists get the fuck out of their way and they win. But hasn't happened yet. Things are really bleak. On that note, do you know what's not really bleak?
The possibility of buying gold coins.
Yeah.
To insulate ourselves against inflation. Yep. You'd be stoked if you had a buck ton of gold in Ecuador, wouldn't you? Currency's gone to shit, sitting on your pile of gold like Scrooge McDuck. You'd be living the dream.
All right, and we're back. So, all right, we're gonna take a few other places that the electoral left has won in. Chavismo is dead as a doornail. Maduro's slashing pensions, dollarizing the economies, cutting a bunch of deals with American oil companies, and has arrested the leadership of the Venezuelan Communist Party again. He keeps doing this. Things going great. Like, obviously not helped by the blockade, which is very bad, but not great. Morena, which we're not going to talk an enormous. At some point, we're going to actually do a thing, actually go talk to the Zapatistas, but things are not good there right now. So the left, in theory, kind of has taken power in Mexico. Unfortunately, the moment they took power, they immediately tacked right, handed control of vast swaths of the country over to the military, built a train through a bunch of indigenous land, and then gave that to the military.
Yeah, switched a bunch of military commands around because they claimed that the old guys were corrupt.
One of the other things that's been really bleak about it was that the whole premise of AMLO coming into power was he ran in the campaign hugs not bullets, right? His whole thing was he was supposed to be ending the war on drugs. Did he end the war on drugs? Absolutely not. Gave a shit ton of power to the military. People still getting fucking slaughtered.
Yeah, I don't know. I definitely saw a bunch of dudes in ski masks with a 50 cal chilling just the other side of the border. Sent by the government 2 days ago.
And instead of doing that, he's also been continuing the escalating the war against the Zapatistas, who've been getting people getting fucking murdered by a bunch of these government-backed paramilitaries. It's really fucking bleak out there right now. Yeah, so that's been the legacy of AMLO finally winning a Mexican election, is the most right-wing possible AMLO government. I will say they're better on trans stuff than everyone, the other parties who are all completely nuts, but that's about the only bright spot.
Yeah. I mean, they were in bilateral negotiations with the US, and when the US clicked its fingers and said, shut down these gaps in the border, they sent a bunch of National Guard soldiers to sit right at the gaps in the border wall.
Yep. They've been doing a bunch of just horrific anti-border shit. AMLO was also just pretty friendly with Trump.
There was a populist thing there.
Yeah. So that fucking sucks. And so we're going to close on the MAS. Oh boy. So there's been a bunch of stuff happening in Bolivia that I don't think most Americans have heard much about. So the MAS, Movement for Socialism, there's some other shit, but they are... Yeah. Well, okay, so for most of the time they've existed, it's been Evo Morales' party. However, it was always kind of a weird coalition because the MAS is this coalition between like the social movements and in this context, like people say social movements, this includes like, you know, like giant like movement groups, but also like unions and stuff. So it was a coalition of these unions and these like developmentalist capitalists who were welded together by Evo Morales and some of his allies. And, you know, the sort of common ground of forging a like quote unquote indigenous plurinational state that's based on like, based on forging a welfare state based on like mining and extractive stuff and like oil drilling and stuff. And also based on the emergence of this new sort of indigenous middle class. Right now, it has split in two between an Evo Morales faction and who was the former president, was president for a very, very long time, and Luis Acre, who was the current president of Bolivia, but has been kicked out of the MAS by Evo and his faction. So this is a disaster. Both Acre and Evo Morales have they have a lot of personal alliances within the social movements. And this means that it's been a very, very messy split. And you know, and this is not okay. If you look at these two people, you would expect it to be an ideological split because Acre's from like the developmentalist right of the party. Like he was a banker. He's been in charge of the Bolivian Central Bank for a long time. He was like finance minister. So he's from like the center right, like developmentalist faction of the party. Evo, technically speaking, has been the representative of like the sort of like the social movement faction of the party. He has a lot of allies in a lot of coca growers unions, stuff like that. But it hasn't broken like that because this isn't an ideological fight. This is just these two guys both want to be presidents. And so they've literally torn the entire Bolivian left in two over this fucking bullshit.
Yeah, never before happened on the left. Two dudes wanting to be in charge.
Yeah, and this has been really, really messy, and it's not breaking down it's not breaking cleanly politically down because there's a lot of like people from the anti-extractivist left of the party who are pissed off at the way that Evo has like personally tried to seize control of what are supposed to be independent social movements. And I know people hear that and are like, wait, what's the problem with like social movements being integrated with the state? Because like the US doesn't have social movements, like not in the way that like that Latin America has them. Like BLM is the closest thing that we have to that, but imagine if like BLM was like an actual leftist group, like the actual like organization Black Lives Matter was
like capital letters group. BLM.
It was like a leftist group that would like lead protests and strikes and shit. Like we don't have that. That's like not a thing here. And so mostly when people hear about this stuff, they're like, wait, what does that mean? Like why are we complaining that that social movements are being like folded into the state or like folded into this bureaucratic apparatus? So I'm going to run through an example of what that looks like in practice. So we're going to briefly talk about the Confederation of Indigenous Peoples of Bolivia.
Based.
Yeah. So
we talk about the We Follow flag.
I didn't have anything in there on it. It is very funny. Given what we're about to talk about, it is very funny that all of the pro-MAS people in the US had that as their flag, had that flag as their profile picture when this coup was going on.
It's one of the cooler flags out there.
It rips. It does rip. So back in 2011, this is like 8 years before the coup. The Confederation of Indigenous People of Bolivia opposed building this road through protected indigenous territory that the government was trying to force through. So they opposed it. Their opposition didn't do anything. They joined in this enormous protest movement against this road construction. Evo and his supporters had the Confederation's offices stormed by riot police and tried to replace his leadership with loyalists. This failed initially, and the Confederation of Indigenous Peoples of Bolivia had been part of the MAS's like formal alliance, right? And after that, they were like, "Fuck you, man, we're out." They left, and then the Confederation split between the groups who were pro-Evo and everyone else. So another faction of the Confederation split from the regular Confederation and went back and joined, and calling themselves the same thing, and went back and joined the MAS again. So like, this is a shit show, right? And a lot of it is like, it comes down to these sort of like loyalty test things. Like, are you willing to back every single thing that Evo wants to do? And if you're not, like, their faction, and this is the thing that like, this happens in the fucking DSA all the time, right? Like everyone in the DSA is constantly trying to purge every other faction and install their loyalists like in charge of whatever fucking working group, right? But, you know, this is happening in a place where the left actually has power, which means that instead of like, you know, a series of weird elections and like purging people from positions, you're storming their offices with riot police.
Yeah.
This is why a lot of sort of groups who you would expect to be backing Evo aren't and are backing Akre instead. But really, truly, this is just two guys having a dick waving contest. This is what happens when you do electoralism.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's also worth mentioning the reason we're in this situation in the first place is that Evo refused to just, like, in 2019, refused to just let someone else from his party run. Like, if literally anyone else had run, the MAS would have just trivially easily won the election. There wouldn't have been a coup. There wouldn't have even been the potential to do one. But he refused because he wants to personally be in power. And this is what allows the 2019 coup to happen. And the second reason that we're here now is that in 2021, and I don't think most American leftists like know about this. I think people know about the coup. I don't think people know about the stuff that happened in 2021, which is that there was this massive series of like barricades that went up to bring down the coup government. So this is the thing that happens periodically in Bolivia. This is how the social movements took power in the first place, is that they, you know, Bolivia, because of the way the terrain works, very, very mountainous country, very narrow roads, not many roads into a place. You could just block all of the roads that go into the capital, and you can shut down the entire country's economy by just doing these roadblocks. They very nearly, this is actually, like, again, the origin of the MAS, is that they very nearly, like, completely destroyed the Bolivian government with this in 2006. And then Evo pulled his people off the barricades and was like, no, we're going to do an election. He easily wins the election because he's doing the thing we've been talking about this whole episode, which is harnessing the power of these social movements in order to get elected. And it works. Like, he becomes president. But in 2021, it happens again. And these groups are getting very close. They've done enough damage that they've forced the coup government to, like, actually have elections, which they didn't want to have. But they're on the verge of, like, actually knocking the government out of power. And Evo once again pulls all of his people off the barricades because he doesn't want the barricades to, like, disrupt his chance of winning the election. And so instead of, like, bringing down this government and, like, ushering in, like, sweeping, like, left-wing reforms, whatever, on, like, the back of a revolutionary seizure of power, we have the MAS split between two dipshits. And yeah, these are very, very serious about taking power. You can tell this because they've split the party over personal bullshit.
Yeah, every time, right? Like, leaderism is the curse of the left, and it stops us doing things because it's always just dudes chest thumping at each other.
Yeah, and this is the second part about it, is that this is a product of leaving the streets. And we're going to close on Chile. We did a very optimistic episode on the protests in Chile a couple of years ago because it looked like they were actually winning. That's not true anymore. After the whole, okay, so Chile in 2019 has these massive street protests. They successfully forced the government to call a constitutional convention to, like, replace their Pinochet constitution, but that got everyone off the streets. And because it got everyone off the streets, both successive attempts to have a constitution have failed. It's deeply unclear what the fuck's going to happen with the constitution. It's possible they're going to end up with a constitution that is even more right-wing than the current one because they've blown literally their moment of opportunity by pulling everyone out of the streets, and now the right's resurgent. It's a complete fiasco. Yeah, the repression of indigenous people has continued unabated under the new quote-unquote left-wing government. So, yeah. It's a complete fiasco, and that is today's lesson, which is if anyone, when people tell you that they are the ones who are serious about taking and wielding power and they want you to go vote for them, they have failed everywhere for a decade. Do not let them do this to you again. Don't leave the streets. Yeah, instead, don't leave the streets. Don't give someone else fucking power. Take it for yourself. That's all I've got.
Yeah, no, that's a good place to end, I think. Yeah, don't infantilize yourself by electing some Instagram prick to make decisions for you.
Time for a sofa upgrade? Introducing Anabe Sofas, where designer style meets budget-friendly prices. Anabay brings you the ultimate in furniture innovation with a modular design that allows you to rearrange your space effortlessly. Perfect for both small and large spaces, Anabay is the only machine washable sofa inside and out. Say goodbye to stains and messes with liquid and stain-resistant fabrics that make cleaning easy. Liquid simply slide right off. Designed for custom comfort, our high-resilience foam lets you choose between a sink-in feel or a supportive memory foam blend. Plus, our pet-friendly, stain-resistant fabrics ensure your sofa stays beautiful for years. Don't compromise quality for price. Visit WashableSofas.com to upgrade your living space today. Sofas start at just $699 with no risk returns and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Get up to 60% off plus free shipping and free returns. Shop now at WashableSofas.com. Offers are subject to change and certain restrictions may apply.
Pro drivers live for race day, but for small business owners, every day is race day. That's why going pro with Lenovo Pro matters. One-on-one advice, IT solutions, and customized hardware powered by Intel Core Ultra processors keep your business on the right track. Business goes pro with Lenovo Pro. Sign up for free at lenovo.com/pro.
Lenovo. Flag football is exploding, and iFlag is leading the way. As the Guinness World Record holder, iFlag hosts premier flag football tournaments nationwide for boys, girls, high school girls, and adults. From first-time players to elite competitors, iFlag delivers top-level competition, unforgettable experiences, and a community built around the game. Ready to be part of it? Join the movement. Find your tournament and learn more at iflag.org. That's iflag.org.
Welcome to It Could Happen Here. I'm Andrew Sage of the YouTube channel Andrewism, and one of the last times I was on here, I was discussing political cults generally, drawn from the work of Dennis Turish and Tim Wolforth in their book On the Edge, Political Cults Left and Right. We learned about the roller coaster emotional ride that individuals experience during cult recruitment, where their feelings and ideas are manipulated and they are drawn into an exclusive and isolating group. We explored the common techniques used by political cults, including creating rigid belief systems, immunity to falsification, authoritarianism, arbitrary leadership, deification of leaders, intense activism, and the use of loaded language. We also highlighted the contradictory positions often held by members of political cults, such as advocating for liberty while supporting totalitarianism, believing in equality alongside leaders accumulating privileges, promoting sexual morality while exploiting members, and demanding free speech rights while suppressing dissent within the group. And we also examined Robert Lifton's 8 conditions that indicate the presence of ideological totalism within cults, which include milieu control, mystical manipulation, the demand for purity, the cult of confession, the sacred science, loading the language, doctrine over person, and the dispensing of existence. If you want the details on all of that, you can check out the first episode in Political Cult series, or you could pick up the book on political cults yourself. As I said, On the Edge, Political Cults Left and Right by Dennis Turish and Tim Wolforth. I also had an episode where I spoke about the Trotskyist turned right-wing cult of Lyndon LaRouche, which was primarily based in USA. But today, joined by Garrison, I want to take a look at the deadly cult that arose from the Japanese student movement, the United Red Army.
Very exciting stuff.
In my research for this episode, I looked at Dead Bodies and Living Guns by Yoshikuni Igarashi, the Japanese Women's Liberation Movement, the United Red Army by Setsu Shigematsu, and Hijackers, Bombers, and Bank Robbers by Patricia G. Steinhoff. So let's get into it. And to do so, we're going to need some historical context. Not necessarily as in-depth as digging into the evolution of post-war Japan, which is such a deep and complex period in history that it really deserves and is given special attention by historians that I have not the knowledge to muster. We do, however, need to take a look more specifically at what the conditions were like in the country in the late 60s and early 70s. After the war, Japan was transitioned into something of a liberal democracy, with all that that entails. You know, the US rolled in and occupied Japan and forced all these changes and reforms. And so by the late 60s and 70s, you have post-war children who are now adults and had gone through and witnessed these systems firsthand. They saw the limits of democracy and capitalism. Japanese society was firmly under the thumb of the US as well, which created its own grievances amongst the population. The Japanese government had become a key supporter of US imperialism in the Cold War era. Both the Korean War and the Vietnam War were facilitated through the US's military bases in Japan, and the Japanese left did not like that at all. Naturally, in response, the state would crush them, as states are apt to do. When the Japanese were taken to the streets in solidarity, the state increased their surveillance, repression, and incarceration. Some on the Japanese left would come to see Japan as a police state with US backing. But that wasn't the left's only issue with Japanese society. Japan's economic success post-war, thanks to the US, had brought the establishment of a mass consumer society that gave the population, even in rural areas and among poor factory workers, greater access to information and consumer goods. And that ended up posing an issue for the left in Japan because many of the organizations were struggling to adjust to the shifting tides. To quote Yoshikuni Igarashi directly, the New Left's critique of post-war society had long been too rigid to address the rapidly changing social conditions of Japan. Each person was complicit with the political and economic mechanisms that produced social injustice insofar as he or she took advantage of them. It was simply impossible to undo the effects of the system when many in society cherished their newly found agency as consumers. So the left in Japan was fixated on this very romanticized image of the rugged workers and not really engaging with what the workers themselves thought about and wanted to see transformed in their circumstances. It's understandable that workers, despite being exploited, would also cling to some of the comforts they've gained even under those poor circumstances. And these left organizations weren't adequately engaging with that. They were engaging with the fact that, this poor factory worker is poor and suffering, but they also appreciate the fact that they have access to all these new technologies and all this new entertainment media and all that stuff. They were still stuck in this very late 19th and early 20th century sort of understanding. So they were kind of ideologically stuck and disconnected. They had this one vision of the struggle and it wasn't really being updated with the changing times. So it's no surprise really what will result from this late 60s status quo. First, I think we should start by understanding the various associations of Sekigun, which is the Red Army. There were 3 major related groups under the label of Sekigun that shared a very particular vision. To quote Patricia G. Steinhoff, 1, you have the original group led by Shiomi Takaya, which began as the Sekigun-ha of a major student organization in 1968 and dropped the Ha designation, becoming Sekigun, sometime after it became independent in mid-1969. Nice. 2, you had a remnant of the original Sekigun, which in 1971 joined with another group to become Rengo Sekigun, United Red Army. And remember that because they're the focus of today. And they became under the leadership of the Sekigun head, Mori Tsuneo. And then 3, lastly, you had a group that developed in Lebanon beginning in 1971 under the leadership of Okidaira Takeshi and Sekigun member Shigenobu Fusako, and formally broke with Rengo Sekigun. And this group formally broke with Rengo Sekigun, the United Red Army, in 1972. They were called the Japanese Red Army. So you have the Red Army faction, Sekigun-ha, which dropped the Ha designation and became Sekigun. And then you had a remnant from the original Sekigun, which joined with another group to become Rengo Sekigun, the United Red Army. And then you had a group that broke away from the United Red Army and became the Japanese Red Army. Very classic Marxist-Leninist party splitting practices. So in the early days, Sekigun-ha, the parent revolutionary org of the later 2 groups, beckoned Japan's brightest students, the children of many elites. And when I say elites, I mean these youths would have been regular academics, doctors, bureaucrats, and corporate careerists, if not for them joining this organization. Having passed their entrance exams, immersed in the anti-mainstream culture of the universities at the time, they seized that freedom to create organizations against mainstream Japanese society. The Red Army Sekigun had split from its parent group, a national student organization called the Communist League, informally Bund, over a, quote, unresolvable policy dispute. And the Bund itself had come out of the first major factional split in 1958 in the post-war Japanese national student organization, known as Zengakuren, which was formed by folks who had been expelled from or left the Japanese Communist Party. So just to bring you up to speed there, you have the Japanese Communist Party, and then some people who were expelled from that party created their own organization known as Zengakuren, and then that Zengakuren organization split.
Do you know what else could benefit from a split right now? It's this episode with this ad break. And we're back.
One of the splits that came out of that was the Communist League, which became known as the Bund. And the Bund had a split within it that birthed the Red Army. And the Red Army had its own splits.
Yes, as all these groups love to do.
Yes, lots of splitting. And according to Steinoff, Bund actually had a really remarkable history of internal factional splits. In fact, even for its own cohort, it was quite exceptional. It generated over 50 separate groups in addition to Sekiguna, which had become Sekigun dropping the Ha, as I said, after it became independent from Bund in 1969. Again, nice. And then after the split, Sekigun immediately copied the already outdated Communist Party setup that Bund had initially inherited from its own parent organization. I mean, everything from the Central Committee to the Politburo to the Secretariat to the formal representation from regional and local units, though a lot of these structures mainly existed on paper according to former members. So, what was Sekigun doing? Well, the members were already experienced in orchestrating mass activities typical of the era's student movement. They excelled in producing and disseminating political publications, organizing meetings, and coordinating street demonstrations. But eventually they realized this stuff just isn't working. They needed something bolder. The group aimed for innovative action rather than organizational innovation, adopted the Red Army moniker, and aligned themselves as soldiers within a loosely structured central committee. And despite being a legal entity in post-war Japan, Sekigun quickly found itself at odds with the state due to its provocative intentions and actions. The group openly declared its intention to engage in legal activities. No kind of obstacle whatsoever, triggering intense police surveillance and a confrontational relationship from the outset. Their journey transitioned swiftly from public, legal events to clandestine and unlawful activities such as weapon making, hijackings, bombings, weapon theft, and bank robberies. And with that unfamiliar territory came many mistakes and much relearning.
So they went from having meetings and making zines to doing other stuff is what I take it for, translated to a modern politically active audience.
They went from doing like peaceful protests, peaceful marches, sit-ins, that sort of thing, to like bank robberies and bombings. Yeah. And on top of that, they really had the inflated sense of self to grandiosely label their attempted uprisings as the Tokyo War, the Osaka War, the Kyoto War. I mean, their actions, in a sense, it is some urban guerrilla warfare that they might have been engaging in with some of these actions, very clandestine, very direct and violent and stuff. And there was a state response.
A lot of like more of these like extremely violent militant insurrectionary type can kind of get that inflated sense of what they're doing. And even though I don't think Ted Kaye is an insurrectionist, but still it's like, did he think that blowing someone's fingers off every 5 years was going to trigger the collapse of industrial civilization? And you're like, maybe not, but that doesn't seem like a really great plan. If you're just taking someone's fingers off, yet you think you're like the only one who's standing in the way between industrial society and the future of a desolate Earth. But I don't know. It is a complicated thing sometimes.
Yeah.
It's always hard to gauge the successfulness of your own actions.
Indeed. But I mean, in this case, I think we can gauge the success because Well, first of all, their actions all eventually led to police raids, arrests, and indictments.
Sure.
And also, we could measure success based on the achievement of particular goals. And all of their attempted uprisings were made with the aim of global revolution based on Trotsky's ideas.
Okay.
Yeah, so they were trying to build an army that would not only lead in revolution in Japan, but also aid in revolutionary activities worldwide. So some of the members even sought support and training from groups like the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine.
Huh.
Yeah, and eventually they tried to organize guerrilla training with intent to attack the Prime Minister's residence, but a police raid foiled their plans and arrested 53 of their members, which led to the core of the organization, Sekigun, to go underground. And then while they were underground, their style of organization had to evolve. Initially, they resembled the sort of cumbersome bureaucracy of a communist party, but eventually they reinvented themselves to become similar, rather, to the Japanese managerial styles of the time period. In short, because I'm really trying to get to the juicy bits of what was happening, the communication hurdles that they faced due to that underground police surveillance led to a sophisticated telephone network managed by leaders' wives and girlfriends. Organizational decision-making went from egalitarian debates to hierarchical orders, and after any activities, they engaged in evaluations, so like quarterly reports in like a corporate office, to refine their approach for next time. So given all that history and context, what happens next really shouldn't be all too surprising. In December 1971, the few remaining not arrested or dead members of Sekigun's underground army joined forces with another group in a similar situation called Kakome Saha, or Revolutionary Left, to form the United Red Army, aka Rengo Sekigun, which established themselves in a remote cabin in the Japanese Alps in the dead of winter in Guma Prefecture, and tried to work out the ideological and organizational differences that came from uniting the two organizations. The new group was led by the Red Army faction leader Tsuneo Mori, and second in commanded by Hiroko Nagata, the leader of the Revolutionary Left. And quick digression, it's actually a big deal. Nagata was a woman, and that was sort of a win in a sense. I mean, a win, not in a broader sense, probably not a win considering what happens next, but a win in the sense that at the time there was a big issue with the Japanese New Left and its patriarchal nature, where women typically only had any kind of say or authority in relation to their male partners. So it was kind of nice to see Nagata get elevated to a position where she didn't have to be connected to a male figure in the movement in order to have any kind of say or any kind of political sway. Of course, what she did with that political sway was not all too hot, but yeah, I digress. Under the direction of Mori and girl boss Nagata, about 25 United Red Army members underwent revolutionary training to prepare for armed struggle against the state. At this point, though, you have to wonder what exactly they were hoping to achieve. They weren't even connected to any legitimate worker struggles in the country. They weren't organizing in their communities. They just created these revolutionary cells where they would hold firm to their rigid political aims and refuse to engage in reality. To quote Yoshikuni Igarashi directly, from the earliest days of the New Left, confrontations with the police were endowed with performative value. By taking the beatings of police batons on their heads and being sprayed with tear gas, rally participants presented themselves both as victims of the state's repressive power and as agents of resistance against it. However, by the early 1970s, it became obvious that their performances were not enough to break through the status quo. It was also apparent that popular support for the movements had reached its limit and was starting to wane. As New Left organizations began to see the futility of trying to build widespread support, their acts of violence lost their performative aspect. Rather than presenting themselves as both victims and agents of resistance, as they had done before, many organizations, including the Red Army and the Revolutionary Left, began to escalate their violence. The activists engaged in this increasingly brutal struggle became a sort of self-appointed revolutionary elite, a group that demanded of its members a stepped-up bodily commitment in the form of an ever-intensifying regimen of physical training and corporeal deprivation, and a willingness to die for the cause. The United Red Army's revolutionary struggles at the mountain bases demonstrated the process through which violence came to dominate the lives of its members. At another point in the journal article, he says that while the paradigmatic shift caused by Japan's high-growth economy demanded a new theory and practice of political engagement, United Red Army members merely wished to undo the effects of economic development, literally seeking to establish a critical purchase outside of the existing system. Aspiring to transform themselves into a revolutionary elite, they physically distanced themselves in mountain bases, while valorizing violence as a means to achieve alternative political conditions. Their two-stage strategy of exiting and then striking back at the system, however, proved completely inadequate. At one point early on, 2 members in this, mountain cabin in the Japanese Alps decided that they wanted to peace out of the United Red Army, probably go back to living a normal life. So in retaliation, Nagata organized their assassination with the help of United Red Army members. Yeah, like, how dare you leave?
Yeah, I mean, this whole Red Army saga is a really great example of how an extremely militant leftist force really does mirror so many cult dynamics. And like I the stakes are high. I get it. Like you have a lot of like intense shared experiences with people. It can produce a whole bunch of emotional volatile reactions. I'm sure what they all went through, I can barely even begin to understand with my background in more like anarchist insurrectionary action. But yeah, it's the whole Hitman Squad, for whenever members like age out in their like late 20s is certainly an interesting move.
Indeed. And if that wasn't bad enough, it gets worse. So clearly, the fact that people want to leave means that the character of their members are not good enough. So the United Red Army wanted to improve the character of its members. So under Mori and Nagata's directives, they underwent a purge through a process of collective and individual self-criticism. And it's always self-criticism with these people. So before long, self-criticism became this sort of high-stakes test of each member's revolutionary commitment, calling into question everything from their engagement in romantic relationships to their appreciation of material possessions. Any such attachments were seen as evidence that these members were not committed enough to the cause. In fact, they were the worst thing you could possibly be, a counter-revolutionary. And then things got worse. So just to clarify, and this is according to Patricia G. Steinhoff, who studied the organizational structure of these groups, when the United Red Army came together, they engaged in standard consensus decision-making procedures, which is how they came into agreement that the members needed to be toughened into revolutionaries capable of fighting the police. But despite engagement in consensus from time to time, the organization was very strictly vertical.
Sure.
The Central Committee had a separate room from everyone else in the cabin, and the intimate conditions made it easier to stand out if you weren't cooperating with directives. To quote one section of the article, when the top leaders introduced violence in order to speed up the transformation of the weakest members, no one was able to confront leadership to stop it. Those who disagreed tended to use traditional Japanese methods of indirection, expressing opposition by silence and withdrawal. And given the purpose of the group's activity and the expectation of full participation that is built into the ground rules of consensus decision-making, silence and withdrawal were interpreted as unrevolutionary weakness, and participating in violence against others was soon defined as evidence of one's own sincere commitment to become a better revolutionary. Those who failed to participate energetically in the violence against others became the next victims of the purge.
Yeah, that all makes perfect sense to me, actually.
Yeah. And when they deemed somebody to be a counter-revolutionary, the others would be ordered to punish them through beatings, torture, and exposure to the elements without food or shelter. As you can imagine, people died. So when the first victims died, the leaders said that they had died of defeatism because they couldn't overcome their own weakness.
Uh-huh.
6 weeks later, in February 1972, 12 of the 25 members were dead. Oh, and Steinhoff points out that, ironically, in between bouts of the purge, the United Red Army members were able to break into work groups and carry out tasks like building a new cabin, planning the next attack, and burying the bodies of their dead comrades.
Yeah.
So imagine that. You're like jumping between these purge sessions and like building a cabin with your buds. You know?
Honestly, I don't doubt it. Like, this all does make a sort of weird sense to me. Like I've seen radical groups kind of fall apart in not ways that lead to like mass purging, as in like murder, but I've seen groups fall apart in similar ways to this. But you'll have like a smaller insular clique who tries to remain really active and like keep going and doing stuff while also spending all of their extra time towards continually purifying their member base. Because once you start that like purification and process, like you can't stop. You have to keep the spotlight on someone else, so then it's not on you. Like you have to be proactive in constantly purifying the member group, or else someone's gonna set their target on you. Like it has to. I can totally see how this would have gone down, and I think smaller versions of this still remain to be a massive problem among radical organization structures. Even structures that claim to be horizontal, they still have like an insular clique of like the people who are like the cool group who's going to replicate a lot of these same things. And how, even though it's not technically vertical, in practice they still are able to do a lot of these same like top-down and overriding decision-making processes.
Yeah, it's and this is really what sort of motivated me to start to talk about political cults a bit more. I mean, that and reading the book, looking at this case and reading the book, because I want people to recognize that it's not like this strange out of this world thing that could never take place in your personal life. Like, it's very easy for any political organization to become a cult. Like, there's no ideology that's immune to that. And so through these case studies and through breakdowns of the various components and elements of cults and cult behavior, cult tactics, I want people to be able to recognize the signs. Because what I really hate the most, and this is why I focus mostly on left-wing cults, not as much right-wing cults, is to see people who had so much potential to contribute meaningfully to like revolutionary change, and then they just get all their energies redirected into self-criticism sessions and purification rituals and revolutionary LARPing.
Let's take an ad break here, and we'll be right back to continue talking about the body count of the Red Army. Okay, we are back.
So, 12 bodies, dead and buried.
But on the upside, they have a new cabin. So,
true.
Come on, you know, it's a small price to pay.
So eventually, the leaders, Mori and Nagata, left, which gave each of the United Red Army members a chance to escape before they too succumbed to the fate of death. So I find really interesting is that all of them wanted to leave, but they didn't find it in themselves to leave until after the leadership left.
They were all too scared of each other.
Yeah. And so they took that opportunity to escape before they too died. And of course, the police were hot on all of their tails. Mori and Nagata got arrested, and eventually there were only 5 members left. And they were armed to the teeth. They ended up hiding in a mountain lodge and managed to capture a hostage, which was the wife of the owner of the mountain lodge. And Setsu Shigematsu describes very succinctly what came next. Quote, between 19th and 28th of February, these 5 remaining members of the United Red Army held off over 1,500 riot police at the lodge, which was called Asama Sanso, And this armed standoff and hostage-taking incident became an unprecedented television spectacle. Television news coverage of the incident began on 19th of February, with hundreds of media staff on site to work the story. On the 28th of February, continuous live televised news coverage lasted for 10 hours and 40 minutes. This constituted an unprecedented broadcasting event in Japan. This constituted an unprecedented broadcasting event in Japan's media history that has never been surpassed in terms of its duration and ratings. At the climax, the police operation on the 20th of February, with 89.7% viewer ratings, according to the National Broadcasting Corporation, almost the entire country was watching the same thing on TV. The United Red Army's form of small-scale insurgency against the state was thus rendered hyper-visible, and this drew unprecedented attention to this new left sect. So after the remaining members were captured between the interrogations, media interviews, and autobiographies, the whole of Japan and the world got to hear what really went on. Immediately after the hostage situation, despite their rather fringe style, the United Red Army actually had some public sympathy until the truth of how bad things were came to light. They even made a movie about it. The news of the purge practically devastated not only the broader Sekigun organization, but also transformed the course of the radical left in Japan and beyond. Remember, they did have a branch in Lebanon, which thankfully did not make the same purging mistakes. Still though, many in Japan lost hope in revolution as a result of the publicity of those actions. Political activism had already been on a decline in the late 60s and early 70s, but the shock of the purge was like a nail in the coffin. A lot of people literally distanced themselves from their own leftist movements because of how staggering that news was. The purge literally purged leftism as a major force in Japanese society. And it's only recently with writers like Kohei Saito that Marxism has started to gain some attention again.
And this is like around what? This is like are we in the 60s, 70s?
Yeah. Well, this took place in the purge took place between December 1971 and February 1972.
Really the last dying breath of the militant Trotskyites, I guess.
Indeed. If we look at the techniques used by political cults, rigid belief systems, check. Immunity to falsification, check. Authoritarianism, check. Arbitrary leadership, check. Deification of leaders, most likely, although I didn't see any evidence of that specifically, I wouldn't be surprised. Intense activism, check. Use of loaded language, I'm sure.
Yeah, I bet.
You see basically all of those tactics employed in this organization, and you just see the result of it. And I think it's stories like these that need to be known so that such mistakes can be avoided in the future. So yeah, that's the story of the United Red Army. This has been It Could Happen Here.
It certainly could happen. No, I think it is a really good example. Now, it doesn't map on one-to-one because I don't think many people are doing exactly what the Red Army did in terms of their style of militant struggle. But there's smaller scale versions, and there's still the kind of insular group dynamics, whether that's like just an affinity group, whether that's like a larger collective. I think there's a lot of lessons to learn from the Red Army, and it'd be wrong just to dismiss this whole example as being a little bit too far-fetched or just like too different, because it is a really tragic story, and I feel like people could learn more from this than what they initially think.
Indeed, I agree. So don't go out there and start to United Red Army, folks. Trying to avoid that.
If you want to build a cabin, you can do it without burying 12 of your friends. Anyway, thank you for that, Andrew.
No problem.
Where can the fine listeners find you on the internet?
youtube.com/Andrewism. and nowhere else. Oh, I guess also patreon.com/St. Drew. But other than that, I can't be found on the internet. I don't exist.
Good for you. Good for you. Just like the Red Army, who doesn't exist anymore.
Time for a sofa upgrade? Introducing Anabay Sofas, where designer style meets budget-friendly prices. Anabay brings you the ultimate in furniture innovation with a modular design that allows you to rearrange your space effortlessly. Perfect for both small and large spaces, Anabay is the only machine-washable sofa inside and out. Say goodbye to stains and messes with liquid and stain-resistant fabrics that make cleaning easy. Liquid simply slide right off. Designed for custom comfort, our high-resilience foam lets you choose between a sink-in feel or a supportive memory foam blend. Plus, our pet-friendly, stain-resistant fabrics ensure your sofa stays beautiful for years. Don't compromise quality for price. Visit WashableSofas.com to upgrade your living space today. Sofas start at just $699 with no risk returns and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Get up to 60% off, plus free shipping and free returns. Shop now at WashableSofas.com. Offers are subject to change and certain restrictions may apply.
Pro drivers live for race day, but for small business owners, every day is race day. That's why going pro with Lenovo Pro matters. One-on-one advice, IT solutions, and customized hardware powered by Intel Core Ultra processors keep your business on the right track. Business goes pro with Lenovo Pro. Sign up for free at lenovo.com/pro.
Lenovo. Flag football is exploding, and iFlag is leading the way. As the Guinness World Record holder, iFlag hosts premier flag football tournaments nationwide for boys, girls, high school girls, and adults. From first-time players to elite competitors, iFlag delivers top-level competition, unforgettable experiences, and a community built around the game. Ready to be part of it? Join the movement. Find your tournament and learn more at iflag.org. That's iflag.org.
Hey everybody, Robert Evans here. Welcome back to It Could Happen Here, a podcast about things falling apart and coping with dystopia. And one of the first signs of our dystopia coming to be was the establishment of the TSA and the Department of Homeland Security more broadly. Obviously, DHS, much more problematic than just the TSA. We did a couple of episodes on them with Behind the Bastards back in the day. But, you know, the TSA came to be right after 9/11, and both its establishment, you know, the seeming necessity of it, and the kind of impositions into personal privacy that it made commonplace were both harbingers of the the very fucked up era we find ourselves in now. And the TSA is an interesting law enforcement agency to me. From the perspective of a normal person, I think they're kind of the least objectionable of our federal law enforcement agencies, right? They at least, I should say, of all of the cops that we have in this country, they're the ones you're least likely to have a serious problem with, right? Like, they're not real cops in the way that most cops are. They don't, like, ticket or arrest you generally unless you're one of the startling number of Americans who gets caught with a loaded handgun trying to go through airport security. Mostly, and I've flown way more often than I want to remember, mostly my experience with TSA agents is they check your ID. You know, they stare at an x-ray machine while your shit goes through it. Sometimes they alert and swab some stuff. But, you know, for me, it's usually not that big a deal. For most people I know, it's not that big a deal. Obviously, you know, the degree to which it's a problem is going to vary widely depending on whether or not you're a white dude. But that said, still less potential for things going horribly, violently wrong than with a lot of police interactions. So I'll give them that. And it's interesting to me that kind of given this fact, the TSA is so hated, not by, I think, most Americans. I think we're all kind of frustrated by them. We know, you know, they're not great at their jobs. They get caught in tests letting shit through all the time. It's kind of a pain in the butt. But there's a chunk of Americans who fucking hate the TSA. And they hate it because of how invasive it is. And it's a little weird if you're a regular person, because going through airport security is still less invasive than like applying for an apartment, which a lot of people do more regularly than they fly, or taking a trip to the DMV, which again, a lot of people do more regularly than they fly. But people, with money, upper middle class and rich people, that's where you really get most of the hate from the TSA. Now, obviously, there's some from principled libertarians, and I tend to think they have a point there. But there's a lot of people who really hate the TSA, specifically because it's kind of the only law enforcement friction they deal with on a day-to-day basis. They live in a neighborhood where they're not getting pulled over. The cops, their job is not to fuck with the people who have money. So the only time they're going to get patted down and deal with that thing that is a pretty common experience for Americans in a lot of cities is when they go through the airport, when they fly. And they also fly often because they have more money. So I find myself in this interesting position when reporting on the TSA of there's real abuses there. There's a lot of real threats there. The fact that they do get so much up in our business and that we've normalized it is an issue. And at the same time, I always know when I do something like this, the people who get angriest about whatever I write about the TSA are going to be the worst pieces of shit in the country. So it's a fun balancing act. Now, obviously, as I'm trying not to gloss over, there are some really good reasons to be pissed at the TSA. Like this 2015 story from Denver of several agents who were caught running a groping scam. Basically, one female crew member would point out the men that she found attractive, and a colleague would signal that person out for a pat down. And they basically say oh, it's alerting something around your groin or inner thigh so that she could fondle them, essentially. Now, these people got fired. The TSA went after them when they got caught. But who knows how many people they groped in the interim period. Video in 2023 caught TSA agents at Miami International Airport stealing from passenger bags in the security lines. There's footage of it. Obviously, the people who do this are going to be very, very stupid because there's, as a TSA agent, there's cameras all over the place. You're in the fucking TSA. And the video is just this guy reaching his hand into a bag, pulling out cash. It's not hard to find headlines that are similar, though, going back about as long as the TSA has existed. What interests me more are the massive violations of privacy and the potential involvement the TSA and their normalization of those invasions of privacy has in the expansion of the surveillance state. So this year, at CES 2024, when we found out the TSA had a booth and they were there to talk about their new facial recognition scanners, Garrison and I had to go check it out. And the interview that we conducted is going to kind of be the heart of this episode. But I wanted to get over a little bit more of a preamble first. So the TSA started testing facial recognition scanners on a voluntary basis at 16 domestic airports in, I think, 2022. They expanded it to 25 airports or so last year, 2023. They are in 27 now, according to what we were told by a representative, and the goal is for this technology to go nationwide. Obviously, not everyone is thrilled with that idea, and I'm going to quote from a June 2023 article on CBS News. 5 U.S. senators sent a letter demanding that TSA halt the program. You don't have to compromise people's biometric security in order to provide physical security at airports, said Senator Ed Markey. Pekoski, who is the TSA representative, says he agrees with senators in that he wants to protect privacy for every passenger. I want to deploy technology that's accurate and doesn't disadvantage anybody. Privacy advocates worry about the lack of regulations around facial recognition and its tendency to be less accurate with people of color. Most images are deleted after use, but some information is encrypted and retained for up to 24 months as part of the ongoing review of how the technology performs. What's left out of that article is that the TSA is also allowed to maintain biometric data taken from non-citizens, people entering the country from foreign countries, migrants, and the like. And they're able to keep that and share it. It's kind of unclear the extent of that, but they're not bound by the same rules with those people that they are for citizens. And there are other issues as well, as we'll get into. So Garrison and I were both excited to have a chance to chat with a TSA representative. This guy was less excited to see us, and we will get into that story. But before we do, it's time for an ad break. And we're back. So Garrison and I show up at the CES booth, and it's kind of a small one. You might imagine is about the size of like 3 normal office cubicles, maybe. There's a couple of tables. There's like a little podium thing in the front that's got their logo on it. They have some stickers, including one that's like, it's like peanut butter is a liquid, and it's a cartoon of peanut butter, which I was informed when I commented on it by one of the TSA people that yes, peanut butter is a liquid, which is one of those things that it's both absurd and also like, well, actually, I don't know how else you'd categorize peanut butter if you're the TSA. So I guess it's something I can't have much of an issue with. Cream, but is a cream different from a liquid? I don't know. That's for the philosophers to decide. So Garrison and I come up to this booth, and there's a guy standing behind the podium. And the way stuff works at CES is you have generally a mix of actual, officers from the company. Sometimes it'll be like a CEO or an executive. In the case of a smaller company, other times it'll be regular employees or like engineers and stuff who can answer technical questions. And then most of the people that you talk to are like PR reps. I don't know who the guy was that was at the booth when we first showed up, because as soon as we said we wanted to talk about their facial recognition cameras, he saw we were media and he instantly did the PR equivalent of throwing his buddy on a grenade. He like backed off. He was like, let me get something for you. He pulled his coworker over and then he fucking vanished. And I'm going to play you a little bit of audio of that. We're interested in what you have here in terms of facial recognition.
It's the Cat 2 right over there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What are you seeing? Because I know right now, like if you've got PreCheck or, what's the other one? The independent company that does it.
On a live interview now?
I thought so. I mean, we came up to ask to talk to a TSA representative.
Yeah, sure. Hang on just a second.
Mm-hmm. So the guy we found ourselves in front of was R. Carter Langston, who is actually the press secretary of the TSA. And by God, I don't know if I've ever seen a man less happy to see me. Eventually, we started talking, and I have to give Carter credit for professionalism. His eyes said, I despise you both on principle and am enraged to be doing this. But his voice remained calm, even, and his responses were, to be quite honest, pretty polished. I'm kind of interested in sort of how you see this altering the way we do air travel over the next 5-10 years, right? Because obviously right now, people are using facial recognition if they have PreCheck or they have, I'm spacing the name, but the independent company that does get you past the line and stuff. Like they do like facial recognition when you are in the airport. Is this something that you see as coming more broadly to like everybody going through security in the future?
Eventually.
Yeah.
Eventually. So right now it's at 27 participating airports. Mm-hmm. And it's not at every single, we call them travel document checker podiums.
Okay.
It's not at every single travel document checker podium, TDC for short. But it is growing and becoming, we're deploying more and more as funding becomes available for it. We're using facial recognition to identify passengers. It's a significant improvement over the previous way we were identifying passengers, just with the human interaction, looking at an ID credential and looking at it based on what that individual knows about the 50 states and territories, and how they what their credentials look like. The technology actually takes that over and does a much better job of validating the authenticity of that ID. And then the facial recognition component with a picture, still image, taking a picture of the passenger standing in front of the travel document checker podium, and then matching that picture of that person standing there live against the credential photo and making a match that way. So we know that the credential is valid, it's true, it's accurate. We know that the person standing there is also the person on the credential. We can verify the boarding status and the screening status of that individual and can provide them with where they should go next for their screening. Because the officer is able to discern, based on all of the information provided at the back end of the monitor that they review, they can see all of those items have been checked. There's a boarding status and there's a screening status, and then just tells the passenger where to go to follow up for screening.
So I'm interested in how someone becomes basically enrolled in this, right? Because my assumption is, at this point, just the picture you get when you're getting your driver's license or your state ID from the DMV is not sufficient for a facial recognition system, right? Simply having the picture in the government space, you need to have somebody like get their face scanned, their irises scanned or something like that in order to have them in the system, right?
It's not in the system at all. So with the way we're rolling these out at airports and checkpoints is once a passenger has been identified and goes into screening, all of the information that was captured is gone. We don't store any of the pictures. Participation right now is completely voluntary. There's signage right there at the checker podium to indicate that passengers can opt out. They don't have to participate. And all that happens at that point is the same officer will turn basically over to the alternative process, review the ID, review the boarding pass, and allow the passenger to continue on. Too easy.
So if
they don't lose their place in line, and they're not delayed in any way from getting screened.
But in terms of like the people who choose to use it, right? So if you're in this system, is it literally just comparing your face to the face on the ID? You're not like enrolled separately the way you are if you are in like pre-check or something?
No.
Okay.
No, it's not. There's not a database associated with this, and so no, that's not our use. Now, some of the airlines have partnered with us. They saw benefit in it, and they're using similar technology for bag drop for their frequent flyer miles program participants. So that is, there's a database associated with that, obviously. And so those passengers have an entirely different experience.
Yeah.
But the way that we're using it at the checkpoint is, as I just said, for identity verification.
Gotcha.
You caught that, right? How he says participation is voluntary right now? Well, I hadn't come across this information at the time, but afterwards I read a fascinating Washington Post article from last summer about Portland Senator Jeff Merkley. Jeff Merkley says that when he was trying to make a flight at Reagan International Airport, he was told that if he didn't verify his ID via face scanner, he would face a significant delay. Quote from the article, "There was no delay. The spokeswoman said the senator showed his photo ID to the TSA agent and cleared security." So basically, he was lied to. Somebody lied and said, you're going to, if you don't want to be delayed and maybe miss your flight, you have to submit to a face scan, which is one of the things that privacy advocates were worried about from the beginning. But you know what privacy advocates aren't worried about? The products and services that support this podcast. And we're back. So I think when it gets right down to it, the silliest part of all of this to me is that the TSA isn't even claiming they need to run faces through some futuristic database of terrorists, right? They want to scan our faces so they know if this bad guy they're tracking is in the airport and disguised using a fake passport or something. That's not actually what it does. Facial recognition the TSA is using, right now at least, just takes the place of the TSA guy you hand your ID before you go put your shit in bins, right? You go up, and before you can go take your stuff out of your bags and put it in those bins, you hand a guy your license, sometimes your license and boarding pass. He looks at it in your face. If you're wearing a mask, he tells you to take it down for a second, and then he lets you go in, right? That's what the facial recognition scanners are actually doing here. That Washington Post article also cites an anti-facial recognition activist, Tawana Petty, who says that she was told by a TSA agent at the same airport, Reagan, that undergoing facial recognition scanning was not optional. So people are already being told this is a requirement. And obviously, as a spoiler for where this goes, the bigger, deeper question is like, how long is that going to be the case, right? So, that's kind of the big concern, right? Is that they're saying it's optional now. It obviously won't be forever. And some people are just going to be told they don't have a choice. Like, that's kind of bullying, strong-arming people, threatening that they'll miss their flight if they don't submit to it, which makes me extra suspicious about their data retention, right? And that is the question we asked as the interview went on. Where is the TSA's biometric data? Or really, where is passenger biometric data actually going to go once the TSA has it?
In terms of information storage, is there? I know I've been seeing more of these like signs the more that I travel, because I do a decent bit of traveling for these sorts of systems, and I'm curious about how this works for non-U.S. citizens. Because I know there's certain, at least in some of the technology that's being used by Customs and Border Patrol, they do store images captured of non-U.S. citizens for a certain time period. They do take pictures of U.S. citizens when entering the country at lots of airports. Are these two systems interacting at all, or is the TSA system and Customs and Border Patrol system more separated?
Well, first of all, I can't speak for Customs and Border Protection. But I can tell you that we have two very different use cases. So their use case is very much oriented in the customs arena, and then ours is, as I just mentioned, at the checkpoint and solely for the identity verification. And if an international passenger comes in with a credential that identifies them, then the unit would obviously accept that credential. It's a photo credential. So again, all that the system would do is validate that person on that credential is also the same person that's standing right there in front of the travel document checker.
Okay. Most of you are probably aware of this, but the TSA actually does not have a good record of protecting private data. Now, this is not Old Man Robert being a libertarian, it's just documented history. The TSA initially claimed their full-body scanners, which took what are essentially naked pictures of passengers, never stored photos and couldn't transmit them. But in 2010, this was revealed to be a lie when we gained access to documents that included technical specifications and vendor contracts, which indicated the TSA required vendors of these scanners to provide equipment that can store and send images of screened passengers. Now, this was supposed to only be in testing mode, but if it can store and send images of screened passengers, it can store and send images of screened passengers. In 2012, a former TSA agent accused his coworkers of saving nude body images of passengers from the body scanner and making fun of them in back rooms. He said that safeguards were put in place to ensure the agents manning the scanners never saw the people they were scanning outside of the scanner, but that these policies were frequently violated. Basically, every privacy policy they had was frequently violated by agents so that they could make fun of people's dicks, right? That's the story. The TSA retired its old scanners the next year, replacing them with a device that showed less detail and particularly provided agents with less clear looks at people's dongs. In 2021, a TSA agent in Minneapolis was accused by airport police of taking dozens of photos of young women going through flight screening. The TSA's record here, both in terms of the agency itself and in terms of its employees, is certainly not worse than numerous police departments, right? Or the FBI. This is something to keep in mind. As frustrating as all this stuff is, literally every local and city law enforcement agency has worse cases, and by God, so do the feds. Could make a case that as frustrating as a lot of this is, the TSA is less of a threat to privacy than most other federal law enforcement agencies. But that's beside the point. For one thing, normalizing facial recognition technology in the airports is a step towards normalizing it everywhere. The data that is gathered will not always be deleted, and more to the point, there's no way to know that the system isn't going to expand in directions that we all find deeply uncomfortable as it goes on. That's why you kind of have to nip this stuff in the bud, especially since they're not really promising extra security here. When you look at the scandals of the TSA, a lot of it has to do with the fact that they'll be getting tested by some other law enforcement agency to see if they can like sneak shit through, right? And the TSA will let a bunch of guns or a fake bomb or whatever through because people aren't paying attention. Facial scanners aren't going to catch that, and it's kind of unclear to me what they are going to catch. My other bigger issue is that even though they say they're going to throw away biometric data, they're not going to keep it more than 24 hours outside of special, situations, which they do kind of leave themselves an in there. The fact that they say they're deleting this stuff doesn't mean they are going to delete that stuff. And I brought up this troubling history of like lack of respect for privacy, violations of privacy by TSA agents in the past within the context of this new system. And I want to play Carter's answer for you.
I am curious, there were a couple, last 5 or 6 years, a couple of cases, stories that blew up of pictures, images of passengers who were on the body scanners being shared, right? Like there were a couple of scandals about that. Has that influenced your attitudes on the data retention policy that should exist for the facial recognition system?
So let me first tell you that we follow the National Institute of Standards and Technology, their guidelines and standards to a T. Not only that, we publish online our privacy impact assessments. So there are we're very transparent in our use of this technology, how we're using it, what we're using it for. And again, it's completely voluntary. Nothing is stored, and it's simply for identity verification, which is really the linchpin for transportation security. I mean, we've got to know that who we're letting into the secure area of an airport is in fact the person that they say they are.
So yeah, that's more or less how the conversation ended. Carter was very happy to see us go, and I don't think Garrison or I were particularly surprised by anything we heard, but I did find it interesting that he kind of confirmed the goal is eventually for this to not just be everywhere, but be something that you can't opt out of. And I do partly wonder how much of that is them looking for a way to get more data on people, maybe even to share to other law enforcement agencies, and how much of that is kind of the same reason a lot of, AI style technology and kind of facial recognition does sort of fall under that umbrella. If you're going to have a general intelligence, one thing it has to be able to do is recognize people's faces. So it is a piece of that. And I think that just like a lot of other applications of that kind of technology are inevitably used to cut workforces, that's kind of probably the chief thing the TSA is looking to use it to do, right? If you can replace the guy who has to look at your ID, or at least most of them, with facial recognition scanners that do the same thing, then you can save on your budget, right? Now, the downside of that maybe to us, the upside is it could be faster. The downside, of course, is there's a really good chance it won't be. The robot will be even more racist than a TSA agent might be, It's one less chance to deal with a human with whom you might be able to talk something through. Anyway, we'll all see where this goes, but for today, this has been It Could Happen Here, and I have been Robert Evans. Hey, we'll be back Monday with more episodes every week from now until the heat death of the universe.
It Could Happen Here is a production of Cool Zone Media. For more podcasts from Cool Zone Media, visit our website, coolzonemedia.com, or check us out on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find sources for It Could Happen Here updated monthly at coolzonemedia.com/sources. Thanks for listening.
Tired of spills and stains on your sofa? Wash away your worries with Anabei. Anabei is the only machine washable sofa inside and out, where designer quality meets budget-friendly prices. That's right, sofas start at just $699. Enjoy a no-risk experience with pet-friendly, stain-resistant, and changeable slip covers made with performance fabric. Experience cloud-like comfort with high-resilience foam that's hypoallergenic and never needs fluffing. The sturdy steel frame ensures longevity, and the modular pieces can be rearranged anytime. Shop WashableSofas.com for up to 60% off site-wide, backed by a 30-day satisfaction guarantee. If you're not absolutely in love, send it back for a full refund. No return shipping or restocking fees. Every penny back. Upgrade now at WashableSofas.com. Offers are subject to change, and certain restrictions may apply.
Pro drivers live for race day, but for small business owners, every day is race day. That's why going pro with Lenovo Pro matters. One-on-one advice, IT solutions, and customized hardware powered by Intel Core Ultra processors keep your business on the right track. Business goes pro with Lenovo Pro. Sign up for free at lenovo.com/pro.
Lenovo. Flag football is exploding, and iFlag is leading the way. As the Guinness World Record holder, iFlag hosts premier flag football tournaments nationwide for boys, girls, high school girls, and adults. From first-time players to elite competitors, iFlag delivers top-level competition, unforgettable experiences, and a community built around the game. Ready to be part of it? Join the movement. Find your tournament and learn more at iflag.org. That's iflag.org.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed Human.